Chapter 1477. Kill Yourself. Li Zongjio stood with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, "Kill myself?" Before Chen Song could react, he heard Li Zongjio's commanding tone. He wanted Chen Song to kill himself. Didn't Li Zongjio ask around in the city? He had the chance to break through and become a supreme being. Aren't you, evil lord, a supreme being too? I'm only one step away from becoming a supreme being. Why do you want me, Chen Song, to kill myself? You really think too highly of yourself. Evil Lord Li Zongjio? You're just a villain with an undeserved reputation. You're a supreme being and I'm no match for you. However, the power of my Azure Ocean Academy isn't something you can imagine. If you want me to kill myself, why don't you take a good look at yourself? Chen Song said coldly. Since Li Zongjio could be called the evil lord, he must have something unique. At the very least, he must be a supreme being. It was normal for him to be able to chop off one of his arms. After all, if he wanted to compare the cultivation of a supreme being, there was indeed a huge difference between heaven and earth. However, Li Zongjio couldn't be arrogant just because he was a supreme being. The Azure Ocean Academy behind him wasn't weak either. They had 3 supreme being experts. It was just that the Azure Ocean Academy didn't want to compete with them. After all, they were relatively low-key on the surface. Everyone was relatively low-key. When the time came, they would directly show their strength and truly amaze the world. That was the best plan. There was no need to show their trump card from the start. It was enough for them to know it. Otherwise, the Azure Ocean Academy wouldn't be so confident to directly establish a foundation in the Sacred Flame Royal City and start recruiting. If an ordinary person wanted to start from scratch, it would take a long time to succeed. However, the Azure Ocean Academy seemed to have succeeded easily. That was why it was misunderstood by the public. It was not an easy task to establish an academy. After all, you need enough heritage, enough connections, and enough stable teachers. Otherwise, it would only take a moment for your school to close down. The Azure Ocean Academy had the strength to do so. It was just that it had always been hidden. It seems that you are very confident. Li Zongjio immediately smiled. His opponent seemed to be very confident. Li Zongjio decided to defeat him in the area he was best at. At this moment, Wang Ding arrived in front of Li Zongjio. This was because Wang Ding didn't know how much Li Zongjio knew about the Azure Ocean Institute. After all, Li Zongjio seemed to have just returned. Moreover, he seemed to have been in seclusion all this time. Wang Ding guessed that Li Zongjio only appeared because of the abyssal race. Young Master, the Azure Ocean Academy isn't simple. Headmaster Lan Yuyen has said that we must not clash with them head-on. We should stop before going too far. If we can't clean up the mess in the future, it will be troublesome. Wang Ding also told him everything he knew. As for whether Li Zongjio would listen or not, it was not up to Wang Ding to say. Good, that's the best. If I let him die so casually, he won't be satisfied. I'm a person of principle and a kind heart. If you want to die, I will definitely let you die knowing why. Li Zongjio said with a smile. Xia Shui listened to the evil lord's words from the side. She had a strange feeling in her heart. This evil lord senior, are you humble or not? No matter how she listened to it, there was a strange feeling. She couldn't figure it out. This was Xia Shui's thought. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures broke through the air. They landed in front of Chen Song. They glanced at Li Zongjio in front of them and then looked at the severed arm on the ground. The 2 of them looked at each other with a trace of embarrassment in their eyes. They didn't expect to meet such a troublesome person today. Deputy Deans, you have to seek justice for me. This Li Zongjio bullied the weak and tried to assassinate my son. Chen Song hurriedly complained when he saw the 2 deputy deans arrive. At the same time, he looked at Li Zongjio with a provocative gaze. The viciousness in his eyes made it seem as if he couldn't wait to twist Li Zongjio's head off in the next second. So what if Li Zongjio is strong? They have 2 supreme being experts on their side. Why would they be afraid of you? Even if Li Zongjio could survive today, the people under him would be sent to their deaths in vain. I'm Yu Manzhou from the Azure Ocean Academy. Lu Wanfei. Greetings to Senior Evil Lord. The two people who came were the famous deputy deans of the Azure Ocean Academy. It was said that the two of them were extremely mysterious. It was difficult for ordinary people to meet them. Moreover, one of them was an expert in alchemy, while the other was an expert in refining weapons. Both of them were top-notch craftsmen in the Azure Ocean Academy. Therefore, the appearance of any one of them could be said to be of great importance. Li Zongjio didn't expect them to appear at the same time today. Moreover, both of them appeared before him. However, it was obvious that even the two of them didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of Li Zongjio. Chen Song was completely dumbfounded by this series of greetings. What's going on? Could it be that the Azure Ocean Academy was afraid of the White Deer Mansion? The fight hadn't even started yet, but they had already admitted defeat. Chen Song, there must be some misunderstanding. Apologize to Senior Evil Lord. Lu Wanfei said. Lu Wanfei was wearing a cauldron robe. He was a true expert in refining weapons. As soon as he said that, not only Chen Song, but even his disciple Ji Fu was shocked. How could this be? One must know that the two people in front of them were the two deputy deans whom they admired and respected greatly. In their hearts, there were only a handful of people who could match the two deputy deans in the world. It was precisely because it was difficult to find opponents that they took up positions in the Azure Ocean Academy. Firstly, it was too boring, so they could find something to do. Secondly, they could only find opponents who were on par with them in this top academy. Otherwise, they would have been free and unfettered. But now, these two indomitable figures actually wanted academician Chen Song, who was injured and suffered losses, to apologize to them. Deputy deans, this person secretly killed senior brother Chen Feng. Ji Fu couldn't help but say. Under such circumstances, if he still had to apologize to the enemy who killed his son, wouldn't he never be able to raise his head in front of others? How deep would such hatred be? They didn't understand why the two deputy deans were here today. Could it be that this Li Zongjio in front of them was really that terrifying? Shut up. You said that Senior Evil Lord killed Shin Feng. Do you have proof? Moreover, Senior Evil Lord is a top figure in the cultivation world. How could he deal with a disciple of an ordinary academy? There must be a misunderstanding. Yu Manzhou said sternly. There was the smell of pills and herbs on his body. He was an alchemist. It didn't matter what level of alchemist he was. Anyway, he couldn't be better than Li Zongjio. Ji Fu was frightened by the latter's stern tone. She had never seen such a side of the deputy deans. Because Ji Fu was also one of the top 10 geniuses of the Azure Ocean Academy and had made a name for herself, she often came into contact with the two deputy deans. She was usually amiable, but at this moment, she was in a tense state as if she was facing a great enemy. Anyone who saw it would feel extremely stifled. Chen Song quickly apologized to Senior Evil Lord. Yu Manzhou reminded. Chen Song's face was filled with unwillingness. My son was killed by Li Zongjio. Now, I actually have to apologize to Li Zongjio. This is simply a great humiliation. However, the two deputy deans had already said so. How could Chen Song resist? Even if he didn't want to apologize, he still had to apologize. Otherwise, the Azure Ocean Academy would directly give up on him and no one would be able to stand up for him. After today, when he recovered from his injuries, he would definitely teach this Li Zongjio a lesson. I'm sorry, Senior Evil Lord. I was reckless and wronged Senior Evil Lord. Chen Song was extremely unwilling. His son was killed and his arm was chopped off. Whether it could be reattached was another matter. Now, blood was still flowing non-stop. Hearing this, Chen Song actually apologized. Although his face was filled with unwillingness, this was already considered a statement. Xia Shui's eyes were filled with disbelief. Just a moment ago, he wanted to fight to the death. In the blink of an eye, he actually apologized in front of Li Zongjio. Although he was unwilling, at least he apologized. As for Evil Lord Li Zongjio, he didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. It was all said by the other party. Amazing, really amazing. As expected of the man behind the Sky Sect Academy. Just thinking about this made Xia Shui feel a sense of pride. Usually, these people were more arrogant than the other. The Azure Ocean Academy seemed to completely disdain to compete with them and never put the Sky Sect Academy in their eyes. This kind of arrogant attitude made Xia Shui very dissatisfied. Today, there was finally someone to teach them a lesson. Just thinking about it made her feel secretly happy. Since the misunderstanding has been cleared up, we will leave first and not disturb everyone's rest, Lu Wanfei said. Lu Wanfei said, now was a good time to slip away. If he continued to stay here, there was no telling what kind of trouble would happen. What the hell, they actually encountered Li Zongjio, this malefic star. It would have been good even if they were facing the great demon king. Unfortunately, they met Li Zongjio. Either he commits suicide or you all die in my hands. Choose for yourself. Li Zongjio said. This sentence shocked everyone. Chapter 1478. The other party had already taken a step back and had apologized. I've already given you enough face by apologizing to you even though I'm at a disadvantage. However, Li Zongjio didn't seem to be satisfied. This was the so-called ruthlessness. Xia Shui was stunned by Li Zongjio's actions. Wang Ding, on the other hand, was extremely calm. Wasn't this expected? Did you really think that evil lord's words were spoken casually? What a joke. Since Li Zongjio said that the brat had to die today, then Qinsong wouldn't live to see tomorrow morning. The sooner the suicide was over, the sooner they could go back to rest. After all, they couldn't avoid it. Xia Shui didn't expect Li Zongjio to be so serious. Yu Manzhou and Lu Wanfei looked at each other. They could even see the cold sweat on each other's forehead. Senior Evil Lord, it's Qinsong's fault for offending you. I'll apologize on your behalf. Do you think you can give Prefect Songheng some face? Yu Manzhou said. Prefect Songheng. Even the prefect of the Azure Ocean Institute was an extremely mysterious figure with an unfathomable cultivation base. The two of them definitely didn't have the strength to contend with Li Zongjio. Didn't you hear that Li Zongjio fought a group of dragons in the Tianyan dynasty? Did you think this was a joke? Did you think you were writing a novel? If Prefect Songheng was here, they wouldn't be in such a passive situation. But now that prefecture head Songheng had left to travel the world, who knew where he was enjoying himself? Only the two of them were left to face Li Zongjio, this terrifying existence. Right now, they could only hope that Li Zongjio would give Prefect Songheng some face. Perhaps Prefect Songheng knew Li Zongjio when he was traveling. Announcing his name was obviously very important at this moment. Prefect Songheng? Li Zongjio frowned. When the two saw Li Zongjio's attitude, they thought that there was hope. However, Li Zongjio quickly shook his head. Never heard of it. Don't waste any more time. Those who touch the people of Tianzong Academy must die. Li Zongjio said firmly. His tone was so firm. At this moment, Xia Shui believed that it was definitely not Li Zongjio who had plotted against Qin Feng. It was only when she saw that Qinsong wanted to vent his anger on her that she made a move. How could a person with such a personality be a sneaky villain? Furthermore, the evil dominator had no enmity with that Qin Feng. Why would he need to personally take action to kill Qin Feng? What a joke. It was obvious that Qin Feng was not strong enough, and the quality of the protective jade pendant was not good. That was why he had died at the hands of the Blade clan of the Abyss clan. Li Zongjio had only chosen to protect her and the people of Tianzong Academy from the beginning to the end. She was protected by a powerful force like Li Zongjio. Xia Shui's heart was indescribably touched. Although she had almost lost her life, she was still alive. Originally, she should have turned a big problem into a small one, and a small one into nothing. However, Evil Lord obviously did not want to do so. If he did so, Tianzong Academy would no longer be strong. Tianzong Academy was definitely a strong force now. When Xia Shui saw Li Zongjio, her eyes were almost sparkling. Lu Wanfei and Li Zongjio looked at each other again. Obviously, it was hard to make a decision. Could it be that they would really kill Qinsong just because of Li Zongjio's words? At this moment, Qinsong also deeply understood that evil Lord Li Zongjio seemed to be more terrifying than the rumors. More terrifying than he had imagined. Otherwise, facing Li Zongjio's pressure step by step. Why would the two deputy deans have to make concessions like this? They would have slapped each other and both sides would have directly fought. As long as there was a slight possibility, there was no need to be so humble and humble. In any case, they were two supreme experts. However, in front of Li Zongjio, they had no temper at all. Just this point alone was enough for the latter to figure out what was going on. In the end, Lu Wanfei made up his mind. Suddenly, he pressed his hand on Qin Song's left arm. This was also Qin Song's last arm. Bang! Qin Song's last arm was directly blown off on the spot. Just like that, it was directly blown up without any foreshadowing at all. At the same time, Chen Song's own yuan energy was completely sealed. Therefore, there was no way to cover up the pain of losing his arm. It was directly displayed to his heart's content. Ah! Chen Song directly knelt on the ground and pressed his head against the floor. Since he started cultivating, he had been in countless battles and injuries were nothing out of the ordinary. However, today both of his arms were directly broken. This was the first time in his life that he had experienced such pain. When Qin Song knelt on the ground, this feeling of pain was deeply engraved in Ji Fu's mind. Ji Fu was scared silly today. The things that happened in front of her were simply as miraculous as a dream. She had never heard of such a thing happening before. Why did this kind of thing happen to her? Ji Fu could not believe her eyes. Looking at everything in front of her, Ji Fu's heart was already filled with regret. If she had known this would happen, she would not have revealed her discovery. It was all her fault that academician Qin Song had to suffer such torture. Lu Wanfei was also thinking of ways to save Qin Song's life. Perhaps after breaking the latter's arms, Li Zongjio's mood would be slightly better. After that, keeping his life was more important than anything else. May I ask if Senior Evil Lord is satisfied now? Yu Manzhou said expressionlessly. In fact, at this time, Yu Manzhou's heart was already filled with resentment. Just because Evil Lord was powerful, did he think that he could wantonly bully others? Even if he could bully others, it did not mean that he could continue to be arrogant forever. Xia Shui looked at the miserable Qin Song and felt a little sorry for him. After all, Qin Song was an academician with a bright future. Now that both of his arms were broken, it would be difficult for him to recover his cultivation. He would probably be a cripple for the rest of his life. For a cultivator, this might really be the biggest punishment for him. However, Li Zongjio still shook his head. Don't you have ears? Li Zongjio said indifferently. He looked at Yu Manzhou. Are my words so difficult to understand? Do you have to force me to do it myself? Li Zongjio. When Yu Manzhou heard that Li Zongjio was still unwilling to give up, he immediately roared and took a step forward. He glared at the person in front of him and clenched his fists tightly. However, he did not dare to explode. At this moment, there was already a large group of experts rushing over from the sky. Whoosh! They were all experts from the White Deer Mansion. Lan Yuyan was also among them. It was obvious that the two groups of people had gathered. Lan Yuyan was also a member of the White Deer Mansion. Although it was not publicly announced, everyone knew the relationship between the White Deer Mansion and Tianzong Academy. Li Zongjio. Lan Yuyan was pleasantly surprised when she saw Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio only nodded at Lan Yun. Seeing that there were so many people from the other side, if he did not act, it would be difficult to end the situation. If this dragged on, it would be even more embarrassing. Qin Song, don't blame us for this. Yu Manzhou said in a deep voice. After whispering to the injured Qin Song, he directly smashed Qin Song's internal organs into pieces with a single palm. Bang! He was a teacher, but when he attacked, he was quite ruthless. Senior Evil Lord, we will meet again. Yu Manzhou said to Li Zongjio with his fists clasped. From the looks of it, it seemed that they were still looking for an opportunity to take revenge. Li Zongjio was waiting for them to take their revenge. I'm just afraid that they would run away halfway. Let's go. Yu Manzhou left the two corpses behind and immediately leaped away. Xia Shui stared blankly at the two corpses on the ground. For some reason, Xia Shui even had an illusion that the two people in front of her didn't need to die, but for some reason, they had to kill them. It was as if they were conducting a lesson. Who would use killing to teach others? Thinking of this, Xia Shui couldn't help but shiver. She shook her head, not letting her imagination run wild. Tonight, she was supposed to help Wang Ding kill the Abyss tribe, but she didn't expect to offend the people from the Azure Ocean Academy. Now, there wouldn't be any good relations between the two great academies. They would probably be at each other's throats. If they met in the future, it would definitely be an irreconcilable feud. However, Xia Shui wasn't afraid of them. By the time you came, Xia Shui was already dead. Do you think you can let your guard down in the Sacred Flame Imperial City? Li Zongjio glanced at the guests of the White Deer Mansion in front of him. After such a thing happened, they actually waited for others to inform them. It was simply embarrassing. How dare they say that this was their territory? We are ashamed. After hearing this, the guests of the White Deer Mansion were ashamed. After all, the treatment given by the White Deer Mansion could be said to be quite good. However, it was hard to say. After all, Chen Zong followed them all the way here because he was worried about Qin Feng's safety. If not for Li Zongjio coincidentally being here, tonight's incident might not have happened. This was because Li Zongjio gave Xia Shui a very realistic on-the-spot lesson. Of course, Li Zongjio wouldn't say it out loud. He wanted Xia Shui to comprehend it herself. On the battlefield, life and death could be decided with a single thought. There couldn't be any mercy. Also, she had to clearly understand what death was. Chapter 1479. Li Zongjio wouldn't hold it against them. After all, there were many people in Tianzong Academy now. It was normal for them to encounter some danger when they were outside. However, after something happened, they had to get back at them. Only in this way would others not dare to be arrogant and act recklessly when they announced their names in the future. Li Zongjio's move tonight was to intimidate the people of the Azure Ocean Academy. A mere prefecture master Tsang Heng dared to challenge Li Zongjio in the Sacred Flame Imperial City. He was very interested in who this prefecture master Tsang Heng was. Taifai, go and investigate the background of this prefecture master Tsang Heng. Yes, young master. Taifai replied, trembling with fear. Tonight could be said to be a soul-stirring process. In fact, the speed at which the experts of the White Deer residence arrived could be said to be quite fast. After all, they had sent their junior brothers and sisters to inform them. If they hadn't been intercepted by the intelligence personnel of the White Deer Mansion, their speed would have been even slower. In addition, Wang Ding of the city guards was overseeing this place. He didn't expect the other party to really make a move. Wang Ding was greatly affected. They actually dared to not put him, the commander of the city guards of the Sacred Flame Imperial City, in their eyes. He had to let these guys have a good look. He had to see how powerful they were. In the future, the Azure Ocean Academy would be in big trouble. Wang Ding, remember to follow the traces of the Abyss clan closely. This is only a small portion of them and they haven't died out yet. You have to find them as soon as possible. Otherwise, their speed of evolution will be very fast. Dean Lon, you should also cooperate. It's a good opportunity for the disciples of the Sky Sect Academy to test their skills and show their faces. Li Zongjio said. Although Lan Yuyen wanted to say that the children of the Sky Sect Academy weren't ready, she thought about it again. This was the only way to nurture true warriors. Nothing would happen only when you were fully prepared. All right. Li Zongjio liked to do things in a clean and efficient manner, but he couldn't be considered to be swift and decisive. After all, these were all very simple and conventional operations. Although his men had made a mistake, Li Zongjio did not punish them. After all, they were all his own people. It didn't matter if they made a mistake, as long as they didn't cause any serious consequences. Li Zongjio also let these things go. There was nothing to be calculative about. The matter of the Wishing River was quickly sealed off. He was not allowed to leak any information about this place. Otherwise, it would also cause panic. Wang Ding was also familiar with how things would proceed from there. This Wishing River should have come from the moat. Since the Abyssal tribe had moved, they might have already arrived near the moat. The reproduction rate of the Abyssal tribe was terrifying. The Abyssal tribe that they encountered just now were just ordinary and low-level members of the Abyssal tribe. The matter of investigating the origin of the Abyssal tribe was naturally left to Taifai and the others. Li Zongjio also returned to the White Deer Mansion. He began to concentrate on his cultivation. He closed the door and did not go out. The feud between the Sky Sect Academy and the Azure Ocean Academy in the White Deer Mansion was soon spread. No one dared to believe that the two great academies would become enemies just like that. It was like playing house. Azure Ocean Academy. A group of experts gathered. Everyone present was at the academician level. There was even an old academician among them. This old academician looked somewhat similar to Qin Song and his son. He was Qin Song's father, Qin Zhudao. His name was Exorcism. Chen Zhudao was originally a hidden old academician in the Azure Ocean Academy. He had already retired to Tianyuan and was concentrating on his cultivation in the Azure Ocean Academy. He had cultivated his son, Qin Song. Chen Zhudao was confident that under his leadership, Chen Song would be able to step into the supremacy realm within the next 50 years. By then, the Azure Ocean Academy would have a total of 5 supremacy realm experts. Even the White Deer Mansion didn't have such a lineup. However, such a good hand of cards had been destroyed. That's how it is. Old Chen, this Li Zongjio isn't someone to be trifled with. If you're not careful, you'll lose everything. This person is like a mad demon. The Academy Master has also said that we must not have a direct confrontation with Li Zongjio until he finds a way to deal with Li Zongjio. Vice Dean Lu Wanfei said. However, Chen Zhudao obviously didn't listen to him. He had only come here today to find out the whole story of what had happened. Your Jifu? Chen Zhudao's drooping eyelids slowly opened. He then looked at the only person who had witnessed everything, Jifu. He didn't want to listen to anyone else. He only wanted to listen to the girl in front of him. Jifu felt her body stiffen when Chen Zhudao stared at her. She couldn't move at all. She nodded involuntarily. It seemed that Jifu couldn't lie in front of this power. Jifu didn't know that Qin Feng had a grandfather. Moreover, this grandfather seemed to be more powerful than the 2 vice deans. Just this morning, a meeting was suddenly called. Jifu was also invited. After all, Jifu was an extremely important witness at the scene. Let me borrow your memory for a moment. After saying that, Chen Zhudao's eyes suddenly emitted a ray of light. Boom! Jifu felt as if her mind had been set ablaze by a brilliant flame. Then, the scene that she saw that night flashed past her eyes like a frozen animation. Jifu felt as if her heart had been completely explored. Chen Zhudao wasn't interested in other things about Jifu. However, he didn't let go of any details about what happened last night. After a while, the ray of light disappeared. Then Jifu's body went limp and she collapsed on the chair. She didn't have any strength left. It was as if she had just had a nightmare. Someone directly split her head open and took out all the memories in the depths of her mind. If she were to experience this again, Jifu felt that she would go crazy. Even their eyes were filled with horror and fear as they looked at Chen Zhudao. She didn't dare to speak and curled up at the side. Take her down, Yumanzhou said. He thought that the female academician also went to take Jifu away. The latter needed to be calm and recuperated in her current state. However, the memory that Chen Jitao had obtained directly displayed it to him. It was placed in front of everyone. Suddenly, Chen Zhudao pointed to a spot in one of the light shadows. There was a dark power in the corner. This was a kind of shielding power. If one's cultivation wasn't high enough, there was no way to sense this place. Therefore, one would automatically ignore it. However, it didn't mean that he wasn't here. That kid was by the river the whole night. Chen Zhudao pointed to a spot. The aura within was exactly the same as Li Zongjio's aura. When everyone heard this, they took a deep breath. It turned out that what Jifu said was true. If it wasn't for Li Zongjio's secret intervention, Qin Feng wouldn't have died so easily. Damn it. Yumanzhou slammed the table. So what if we know? Before the schoolmaster returns, we can't act rashly. Chen Zhudao glanced at Yumanzhou. His aged eyes were also filled with deterrence. Just a faint glance was enough to give people a feeling that it could pierce through their hearts. I'll handle this myself. From now on I, Chen Zhudao, have nothing to do with the Azure Sea Academy. Everything I do is for my own movie theater. It has nothing to do with the Azure Sea Academy. The one who suffered the most was not Qinsong. It was him, Chen Zhudao. After so many years of careful nurturing, he didn't expect to be destroyed by Li Zongjio overnight. Such a blood feud wasn't something that he could give up so easily. Even if he died, he would drag a few people from the Li family down with him. He would leave now and head to the Sunset City. Don't you, Li Zongjio, love to kill and annihilate families? Today I, Chen Zhudao, will let you have a taste of it. Didn't you painstakingly plan for such a long time for the sake of the Li family? Today, I'll let you see how you feel when all your hard work turns into ashes. Courtesy demands reciprocity. What you gave me, I'll repay you tenfold. Chen Zhudao didn't need to calm down. He took a step forward. He left the Azure Sea Academy. If he wanted to leave, no one in the Azure Ocean Academy would be able to stop him. Let him go. If we don't do this, it will become one of his inner demons sooner or later. Lu Wanfei saw Chen Zhudao rushing out. Firstly, they did stop him. But Chen Zhudao's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. He had no way to break through his shackles. Therefore, if he released his inner demons as he wished, there might be unexpected results. Chen Zhudao's figure quickly flew across the sky. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the sky above the Sacred Flame Imperial City. On the roof of the White Deer Mansion, Li Zongjio said as he watched Chen Zhudao leave. How could he not know what these people were thinking? Qin Shilong, you go. Don't take action unless it's necessary. Go. Li Zongjio said. Qin Shilong, who was behind him, immediately showed himself. Yes, sir. Qin Shilong's figure also flashed and merged into the void in front of him. His figure also disappeared. Li Zongjio could have killed Chen Zhudao, but Chen Zhudao didn't dare to do so. But he also wanted to see how powerful the Sunset City was. With Qin Shilong, there wouldn't be any problem. Chapter 1480. He slowly looked in the direction of the Azure Ocean Academy. These people were really bold. They actually dared to attack the Luoxia city. It seemed that he had to find a chance to tell the world about it. What would happen if they attacked the Luoxia city? However, there were many smart people in this world. Most of them knew that offending Luoxia city was the same as offending Li Zongjio. They might even offend more people. So, they didn't dare to offend Luoxia city. However, there were also people who weren't afraid of death and were willing to stake everything. For example, Chen Zhudao in front of him. He knew clearly in his heart that if he were to face Li Zongjio, he would be killed in an instant. The only way was to go to the Luoxia city and capture a few important figures of the Li family. Then, Li Zongjio would definitely be terrified. At that time, he would naturally kneel down and beg for mercy. Although he might still die in the end, Chen Zhudao was at least confident that he could take a few people with him before he died. With the speed of a Supreme Realm expert, after 10 hours of flying, he had already arrived in the sky above the Luoxia city. Looking at Luoxia city from afar, it was indeed like a paradise on earth, a paradise. Looking at it made one feel relaxed and happy. However, Chen Zhudao came this time. He was here to kill. The more picturesque a fairyland was, the happier Chen Zhudao would be when he destroyed it. Immediately, Chen Zhudao approached the Luoxia city. Just in the sky above the Luoxia city, he shouted angrily. Who is Li Zongjio's father? Get out here. Get out here. With an angry shout, wind and thunder filled the sky. The entire sky above the Luoxia city seemed to have changed color. The people in the Luoxia city looked up at the sky. Who had come to die? It was the first time in many years that they saw someone coming to die so blatantly. As for Li Tianqing, he was currently considering having a second child with Qin Shi. After all, he had made a breakthrough in his cultivation. Apart from cultivating every day, there was almost nothing to do. He didn't need to worry about the Li family's affairs for a long time. No matter how it developed, it would be full of vitality and wealth. Moreover, the Li family didn't lack money at all. In fact, most of the money was used to do good deeds and save the world. Don't you think he's very free? The sky-blazed lion suddenly raised its head. A pair of ferocious eyes stared at the sky. Li Tianqing's face was full of displeasure when he was interrupted. He believed that anyone would feel the same way, so Li Tianqing summoned his battle armor. Stepping on the Sky Blaze royal lion, he rushed into the sky. Some of the Yuan kings and Yuan emperors hidden in the city appeared beside Li Tianqing. After all, the White Deer Mansion would definitely send someone to protect Li Tianqing. Nangong Wuji was also among them. Last night, Nangong Wuji was quickly transferred over. After Xiao Zhao found out about this, he did not hesitate to transfer most of the forces in White Deer Mansion over. I knew this old thing wouldn't give up. Behind Nangong Wuji were more than 10 origin emperors. However, the strength of the other party seemed to be stronger than expected. Chen Zhudao was also stunned for a moment. He had only roared once, and it had actually caused so many experts to come out of their hiding place. The small Luoxia city had so many crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Who's there? Li Tianqing took the lead with a lion. His aura was like that of the golden armored war god of the heavenly court. Of course, he wouldn't show any mercy to the people who came to challenge him. The other party obviously didn't come with good intentions. As long as it was an enemy, he would be responsible for flattening it. Nangong Wuji and the others also followed behind Li Tianqing. There were at least 100 experts gathered in this dark mass. Li Tianqing took a look at the lineup behind him and was shocked by what he saw. How could there be so many people? It was much more than he expected. Aren't you old Zhang who sells youtiao? Li Tianqing saw an old man in coarse linen clothes who could fly in the air. He was obviously an Yuan emperor expert. Old Zhang immediately smiled. We are here to protect the family head under orders. Obviously, they felt Chen Zhudao's strength, so these experts who were hiding in the dark also showed up one after another. Fuck. Then why are you selling your youtiao to me at such an expensive price? Hee, I'm just earning some pocket money. Li Tianqing was speechless. Of all the things an primitive emperor could do, why did you have to sell deep-fried dough sticks? No wonder the deep-fried dough sticks were so delicious that he couldn't stop eating them. How could the deep-fried dough sticks fried by an primitive emperor be simple? Li Tianqing didn't comment too much on this. Not only were there people selling youtiao, but there were also people selling fish in the East Market and soy sauce in the West Market. There were simply all kinds of people. What kind of world was this? Since when were there so many origin emperors? In fact, there weren't many of them. However, with the support of the White Deer Mansion, these people's cultivation speed had a great breakthrough. Because breaking into the origin emperor realm was a very simple matter. For the White Deer Mansion, it was easy to create a few origin emperors. However, no matter how many origin emperors there were, they were just cannon fodder. Chen Zhudao glanced at the hundreds of experts who had gathered indifferently. They couldn't withstand a single blow. The one who was slightly threatening was the Sky Blaze lion that Li Tianqing was sitting on. Only the Sky Blaze lion could make Chen Zhudao feel a little troubled. After all, it was a primordial beast of the sovereign realm. Moreover, the Sky Blaze lion had a strong bloodline. It wouldn't be so polite to you. Once it started fighting, it would be extremely fierce. Anyone else? Chen Zhudao said indifferently. In front of him was a motley crew. Sure enough, Li Zongjio had miscalculated. The name of Evil Lord seemed to be a bluff. How powerful was he? Anyway, these people in front of him had to die today. He was determined to kill them all. Just as Chen Zhudao finished his words and was about to take action, suddenly, there was a loud and clear cry in the sky above the clouds. 3 black shadows lined up in a triangular formation and appeared in front of Chen Zhudao. In fact, the 3 of them were already in the sky. However, Chen Zhudao didn't see them. That was why the Wind Thunder Condor opened its mouth to remind him that there were still people up there and that he shouldn't be too anxious. When Chen Zhudao saw the 3 Wind Thunder Condors in the sky, he immediately felt as if his heart had been kicked hard by someone. Wind Thunder Condor. Not only the Wind Thunder Condor, but there were also 3 figures behind the Wind Thunder Condor. Chen Zhudao could feel a ferocious power from the 3 of them. It was a kind of suppression that came from the pinnacle of the world. This kind of suffocation. To Chen Zhudao, it was extremely shocking, because he had only felt this kind of feeling from one person before. Honorables. Chen Zhudao's body started to tremble. Honorables of the sovereign realm. A single honorable realm expert was enough to kill 10 supreme beings. This was the terrifying power of an honorable. If it was an absolute saint, one wouldn't even be able to touch their hair and would be turned into ashes. 3 honorables. At this moment, Qin Zhudao felt as if he was in front of the gates of hell. The people in front of him were waiting to judge him. Run! This was the only thought in Qin Zhudao's mind. He thought that Luoxia City was defenseless. Even if there were some reserves, it couldn't be too strong. However, when Qin Zhudao saw the 3 honorables in front of him, he knew that it was too late. It was completely too late. If he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to. Why was he so impulsive? Life was so beautiful. Why didn't he live well? Why did he have to die like this? Immediately, Qin Zhudao's body swayed. Boom. However, Qin Zhudao only dashed out for about 10 meters before he hit an invisible wall with a bang. Then, Qin Zhudao couldn't help but retreat. He found that he was trapped by the other party. Who are you? Who sent you here? Li Tianqing moved closer to Qin Zhudao. At this moment, Li Tianqing was right in front of Qin Zhudao. However, Qin Zhudao didn't have any power to attack Li Tianqing. The 3 honorables were watching from the sky. They stared at the situation below. It was impossible for them to make a move. Your son killed my whole family, Qin Zhudao shouted in a low voice. At this moment, the power in his body was vibrating. However, he still couldn't break the imprisonment. It was futile. My son killed your whole family? When Li Tianqing heard that the other party had come to seek revenge, he basically understood what was going on. Only Li Zongjio would cause trouble outside. Li Tianqing stayed in the Luoxia city and didn't do anything, so how could he have an enemy? Even if he did have enemies, they would have gone into hiding. How could they appear in front of Li Tianqing and send themselves to death? Now, who didn't know the terrifying strength of Luoxia city? Why did they have to come here and use their lives to verify it? You're lying, Li Tianqing suddenly said seriously. Qin Zhudao was shocked. He didn't understand what Li Tianqing meant. If my son killed your whole family, why didn't you die? Li Tianqing's eyes were filled with cold light. Li Zongjio must have a reason to kill. Li Tianqing believed in his son. If he didn't believe in his son, would he believe in a dead man? In the next moment, Li Tianqing hit Qin Zhudao with his palm. You! Qin Zhudao didn't expect that Li Tianqing and Li Zongjio were jackals of the same tribe. Now, Li Tianqing wanted to get rid of this trouble and clean up Li Zongjio's mess. However, when he was about to attack, it was a wave of power that came from afar. Buzz! It wrapped around Qin Zhudao and quickly retreated. Chapter 1481. Qin Zidao's body was instantly pulled back. The 3 elders of Sparrow Divine Palace in the sky immediately understood that there was an expert in the dark. Immediately, 3 streams of energy swept out in an attempt to grab Qin Zhudao back. At the same time, the Wind Thunder Condor also released a wave of energy. Boom! It blasted towards the space in front of them. However, their attacks were unable to hit the opponent. Finally, at this moment, a beam of green light appeared and slammed into the void. Amidst the formless void, a figure exclaimed in surprise. Then, without taking a step back, he slowly appeared. Beside Qin Zidao, there was an elder in a black robe. There was an invisible flying fish sitting on the elder in a black robe. No wonder he could take Qin Zidao away in the dark. The invisible flying fish was a special meta beast. It could fly in the sky and dive into the sea. It could also hide underground. Although it looked like a fish, it had a pair of wings. Not only that, it also had a pair of sharp claws under its abdomen. It was this unique structure that allowed the latter to possess so many skills. Swoosh! Qin Shilong appeared. When the 3 elders of Sparrow Divine Palace saw the appearance of Qin Shilong, a trace of surprise flashed across their eyes. It seemed that Li Zongjio had a plan. He would not let the person in front of them ruin it. Naturally, he was paying attention to every movement in Luoxia City. I am Song Heng. Can you give me some face and let this matter drop? After I return, I will definitely let him go into seclusion to reflect on his mistakes. He will definitely not come and pose a threat to Luoxia City. A black-robed elder with a white hat on his head appeared. He was skinny and had the demeanor of an immortal. His beard was actually half a meter long. Just this white beard alone would require him to spend a lot of time taking care of it every day. Songheng, the real schoolmaster of Azure Ocean Academy. A mysterious expert who had been wandering around the world all year round. Now, he had actually come to Luoxia City specifically for Qin Zidao. Evidently, Songheng was a rather loyal person. After knowing that Qin Zhudao had come, he was worried and decided to follow him. Originally, Songheng wanted Qin Zhudao to kill a few people. As long as Qin Zhudao did not harm the core members of the Li family, everything could be salvaged. With his identity, when the time came to deal with Li Zongjio, there was still room for negotiation. However, when Songheng arrived, he realized how terrifying Luoxia City was. There were so many experts. Even the experts of Sparrow Divine Palace from the Eldritch Land had appeared here. If Qin Zhudao were to continue like this, he would only end up being killed. There were no surprises at all. No matter what, he was still a hero of the Azure Ocean Academy, an old friend of many years. How could Songheng watch as Qin Zhudao perished here? Therefore, he directly took action to bring him out. Who would have thought that a colossal dragon tribe elite who was comparable to a supreme sage would appear along the way? Damn it! Just how much power did Li Zongjio have under his command? Songheng naturally did not know. He had paid attention to Li Zongjio before. In fact, Li Zongjio did not have much strength. Black Canal Basilica and the like were just a bunch of supremes who wanted to entertain themselves. It was not a big deal for Li Zongjio to settle it. Songheng could have easily settled it if he had taken action. However, this kind of thing had nothing to do with him. There was no need for him to take action. Later, Li Zongjio went into seclusion. Songheng also wandered around and began his own training. He did not continue to pay attention to Li Zongjio. At best, Li Zongjio was just a genius. If he wanted to grow, he would need at least 100 years. Therefore, his attention was not on Li Zongjio. Something like this had happened in the Azure Ocean Academy. Yu Manzhou and the others naturally sent a message to Songheng. As for whether Songheng could receive it, it was really up to fate. However, he coincidentally received it. Fortunately, he came in time. Otherwise, this person would have been killed by these people. He did not expect that the son would be unreasonable. As the father, he was even more unreasonable. He even said that he would make up for the missing one after killing the whole family. If the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked too. Songheng originally wanted to save Qin Zhudao secretly. He would deal with the rest later. After all, he had to clarify the situation first. The three supremes of the Sparrow Divine Palace were here. This meant that the situation was not simple. He was able to kill the three supremes of the Sparrow Divine Palace, but he might not be able to deal with the people behind. For example, the experts of the colossal dragon tribe who came out. Qing Shilong was comparable to an expert of the absolute saint realm. Moreover, when he transformed into his true form, it would be quite difficult to deal with him if he wanted to fight with the other party. Master, you're finally back. You must seek justice for me. When Qin Zhudao saw that it was Songheng who came to save him, he was instantly excited. He was finally saved. The people of the Li family were simply too much. They bullied others by relying on their strength and numbers. Now, even his own prefecture lord had appeared. His backer had also arrived. He wanted to see how arrogant these people could be. The first person Qin Zhudao wanted to kill was Li Tianqing. Look at what Li Tianqing said just now. How could he use such an excuse to absolve his son? Your son is your son, but isn't my son also a son? Therefore, Qin Zhudao was extremely angry. Step back, Songheng said. Songheng said. The other party had many experts, especially a dragon race expert, 3 wind thunder godly eagles, and 3 elders. There were a total of 6 venerable ones. If they really fought, how would they have the time to take care of Qin Zhudao? In fact, Qin Zhudao was only a second-grade sovereign. Yet, he had the guts to do such a thing. If he didn't show up today, Qin Zhudao would only end up being killed by Yi Shiwen. Songheng didn't have to save him. Why didn't you check the situation of the other party before you attacked? How could you just rush over like that? Did you really think that you could run amok in this world just because you had the cultivation of a supreme? Of course, you could run amok in other places. But not here. This was a rare place where you couldn't run amok. Moreover, it was fucking occupied by you. Don't you think you owe me? Chen Zhudao also knew that the current situation seemed to be a little wrong. He immediately stepped back and stood behind Song Heng. He almost lost his life just now. He didn't want to do it again. Otherwise, he didn't know who would come to save him. Song Heng? I've heard of your name. Your Azure Sea Academy is doing well. Li Tianqing appeared and said. Although there were many experts, he was the master of this place. Qing Shilong came to the front of Li Tianqing obediently. Firstly, it was to let Li Tianqing talk to the other party. Secondly, it was convenient for him to block if the other party attacked Li Tianqing. The distance was just right. The three elders of Sparrow God Palace were also watching from the side, to prevent the two in front of them from escaping again. After all, Li Tianqing didn't say that they could leave. As long as he didn't say so, they couldn't let him go. They had to listen to Li Tianqing's command. If they weren't skilled, they wouldn't be able to control the situation. Family Headley, you flatter me. Mansion Master Song Heng said. I won't make things difficult for you. Hand him over and leave now. This matter with you ends here. We can still drink tea and chat often in the future. But if you insist on taking him away, then when my son brings people to exterminate your entire family in the future, even I won't be able to stop him. Think about it carefully. Li Tianqing waved his hand and said. It seemed that he didn't care about the other party's choice. Anyway, no matter what choice he made, he would have to bear the consequences. After he made his choice, he didn't have to think about whether he could bear the consequences. Because in the end, it will also fall directly on your body. Don't worry about this. You won't be able to escape. If Xia Shui was here and heard Li Tianqing's words, she would probably understand why Li Zongjio had such a tone. It turned out that he learned it from Li Tianqing. In the past, Li Tianqing knew how to endure and take a step back. After all, the underworld was about the ways of the world, not about fighting and killing. But one day, Li Tianqing suddenly realized. He didn't need to. He didn't need to talk to you about the ways of the world. I'll just fight and kill them. After all, he had such a heaven-defying son. What was there to talk about? If he couldn't do anything, he could do everything. As long as you dared to cause trouble, he would destroy you in minutes. It was that simple. The reason why he talked to you about the ways of the world was because he couldn't beat you. Family Headley, do you really think that your people can stop me? When Song Heng heard Li Tianqing's words, he immediately felt that it was troublesome. However, he was a true absolute saint expert. And he also had special means. During this period of time, he had traveled around the world and made many friends. If they really met on the battlefield in the end, he wouldn't necessarily be at a disadvantage. It was still unknown who would win. Then you can try. Although Li Tianqing wasn't an absolute saint, he had the guts to face an absolute saint expert head-on. This kind of aura was indeed unparalleled. After all, he had to support this situation. Then I can only offend you. Song Heng was an absolute saint expert. Did he have to be humble in front of you? If it weren't for Qing Shilong in front of him, he would have beaten you to a pulp. Chapter 1482. Song Heng did not intend to waste time with these people. If he wanted to take Chen Zhudao away, the people in front of him were not qualified to stop him. Attack! Li Tianqing bellowed. The four great experts attacked at the same time, along with the three-wind thunder godly eagles. Qing Shilong rushed to the front. His strength was the strongest, and his cultivation was the strongest. It was natural for him to rush to the front. Immediately, Mansion Master Song Heng slapped his palm forward. Immediately, monstrous origin energy turned into a giant wave. Instantly, it pounced on the people in front of him. Boom! Qing Shilong directly transformed into his original form in the giant wave. Boom! In this instant his aura exploded. With the help of the three great elders, the space in the surroundings became chaotic. The surrounding space was thrown into chaos, making it impossible for the latter to escape. He had to fight his way out of the encirclement head-on. Boom! Song Heng slapped Qing Shilong's body continuously for more than 10 times. However, Qing Shilong did not suffer any injuries. Instead, he moved closer and clawed a hole in Song Heng's clothes. Li Tianqing and the others could only retreat. They could only watch the great battle between the human and the dragon. Chen Zhudao was barely able to protect himself in the countless waves of origin energy. He had to stabilize his strength to prevent his body from being torn apart by the origin energy. Any random force outside was enough to tear his body to shreds. He thought that he was so impulsive to come to such a place to die. Chen Zhudao even had the thought of killing himself. How could he be so impulsive? The main reason was that Li Zongjiu's force was too strong. Who would have thought that such a top expert would be arranged to guard Luoxia City? His little trick was simply a fart. He would be cannon fodder if he came. Now, he had to trouble his mansion master. There was no medicine for regret in the first place. This allowed him to quickly calm down and think of a way to escape. As long as there was a chance, he must escape. Find a chance to escape. After you escape, it will be easier for me to escape. Song Heng transmitted his voice to Chen Zhudao. Chen Zhudao's face lit up when he heard that. Then, Song Heng suddenly directed a shockwave towards the 3 elders of the Divine Sparrow Palace during the battle. This created a certain obstruction for the 3 elders. Now, Song Heng had created an opening. Chen Zhudao was not stupid. He immediately rushed toward this gap. In the blink of an eye, he had fled several hundred miles away. As for how Prefecture Master Song Heng would escape in the end, there was no need for him to worry about that. Right now, he only needed to worry about himself. Boom! Just as Chen Zhudao was moving rapidly, Zhang Wuji's eyes lit up. Suddenly, a huge shadow appeared in the sky and covered the ladder. Sky Blaze Lion. No matter what, Li Tianqing would not let Chen Zhudao leave just like that. Li Tianqing, does your Li family really want to kill me? When Chen Zhudao saw Li Tianqing chasing after him in the sky, he roared furiously. Li Tianqing had gone too far. He didn't give him any chance to live. Fire Lion Palm. Li Tianqing used his actions to answer the latter's question. Boom! Li Tianqing's attack missed, but it also hindered the other party to a certain extent. The Sky Blaze Lion's speed was enough to surpass the latter. The main thing was that this guy only wanted to escape. He no longer wanted to fight, and his momentum was greatly reduced. The Sky Blaze Lion also found an opportunity to attack Chen Zhudao instantly. Boom! The Sky Blaze Lion's claw dug a bloody hole in Chen Zhudao's body. With a bang, his body fell to the ground. With a bang, he exploded on the ground. Dust flew up into the sky. The Sky Blaze Lion landed on the ground. It opened its mouth and a fierce flame covered the area in front of it. Boom! The flame roared. It was as if tens of thousands of flaming lions had passed through. In an instant, everything in front of it was destroyed. A piece of scorched earth appeared. However, the other party's figure had disappeared. It disappeared mysteriously. There was no trace of him. Li Tianqing stood on the Sky Blaze Lion and searched around. However, he couldn't find any trace of the other party. He immediately frowned. He ran really fast. Leaving behind some spatial fluctuations, it was obvious that the latter had used a spatial item to instantly disappear from where he stood. However, the other party was severely injured by the Sky Blaze Lion. It was enough for him to bear. After all, Li Tianqing wasn't an expert like Li Zongjiu. He couldn't achieve such a level and realm. It was normal for him to have some life-saving means in his hands since he could live for so long. Returning without success. Go back! The Sky Blaze Lion soared again, bringing Li Tianqing's figure back. In the sky, when Song Heng saw Li Tianqing return so quickly, he knew that Chen Zhudao had left. Since that was the case, there was no need to continue fighting. Domain. Suddenly, a ray of light shone from the forehead of Song Heng Mansion Master. Suddenly, a light screen enveloped everyone. Whether it was Qing Shilong or the 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace, they all felt their origin energy disappear instantly. Almost instantly, they disappeared without a trace. What? Song Heng's figure instantly soared into the sky. Although Qing Shilong had lost his origin energy, his physical strength was still strong. However, when he flapped his wings, he saw Song Heng's figure disappear in front of him. After all, the other party's strength was at its peak. Qing Shilong, who suddenly lost his origin energy, naturally couldn't catch up with the other party. Hence, he could only watch the other party disappear in front of his eyes. Seeing that he couldn't catch up, Qing Shilong returned to the camp. What happened just now? Our yuan power was actually sucked dry in an instant. Facing the sudden situation, the three elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace also felt that it was inconceivable. Could it be? The great elders suddenly thought of something. A legendary clan. They had once appeared on this continent for a short period of time. However, these people had quickly disappeared without leaving any traces behind. Some people said that they were all dead. However, some people said that they were hiding. However, no one knew the real situation. They were the Devouring Yuan clan. It's the Devouring Yuan clan, Qing Shilong said in a deep voice. Since he had made a trip to the Dragon Island, he had asked several brothers to find out what the situation was. Therefore, Qing Shilong himself was also very clear about it. The Devouring Yuan clan hadn't disappeared and they were still on this continent. Wasn't it miraculous? Although he didn't kill Chen Zhudao this time, he could bring back the news of the Devouring Yuan clan. It would definitely be a great contribution. What? It's really the Devouring Yuan clan? The three elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace turned pale with fright. The terrifying ability of the Devouring Yuan clan was almost the fatal nemesis of any human or origin beast that cultivated origin energy. One should know that their strength came from their origin energy. Physical quality was only a part of it. However, the Golden Dragon clan of the Colossal Dragon clan could be said to be more eccentric. All of their strength was used to refine their physical strength. Hence, they could create a considerable amount of destructive power just by relying on their own bodies. They were a great threat. What's there to be surprised about? Master has killed so many of them. Why are you surprised? Qing Shilong could not help but ridicule them. These three old women simply looked like they had not seen the world. He couldn't help complaining. Seeing that Qing Shilong dared to complain about them, the three elders were enraged. The Giant Dragon clan is indeed impolite. Although they had a grudge against each other, they were now on the same side. The main thing was that Qing Shilong had become Li Zongjiu's mount. At least that was what Qing Shilong said. In fact, it was just a simple carriage, similar to a cow or a horse. However, they couldn't afford to offend Qing Shilong now. After all, none of them had broken through to the Absolute Saint Realm. When they broke through to the Honorable Realm, they would be able to confront Qing Shilong head-on. Thank you for your hard work. Please take a seat inside. Li Tianqing came back and said, it was the first time that the old man in green had seen this person. He had never seen this person before. If it wasn't for the presence of this old man, things would have been troublesome. The other party had sent such an expert and they almost fell into their trap. You're welcome. Please go ahead. Although Qing Shilong hadn't signed a contract with Li Zongjiu, Qing Shilong's heart was already dead set on Li Zongjiu. Although he had previously said that his own race had been massacred by Li Zongjiu, Qing Shilong was still unswervingly loyal to him. However, this was not a big deal in Qing Shilong's eyes. Li Zongjiu's ability to spare his life was the greatest gift to him. Qing Shilong was a person who knew how to be grateful. In the beginning, he was under the control of Li Zongjiu because the Dragon Ball was in Li Zongjiu's hands. However, it was different now. After returning from the Dragon Island and hearing about Li Zongjiu's glorious battle record, he had completely submitted to Li Zongjiu. When Great Senior Sister breaks through to the Absolute Saint Realm, she will definitely teach this old man a lesson. The second elder said indignantly. However, this also proved the strength of the Dragon Clan. Their Heavenly Sparrow clan was indeed quite desolate. They had never thought that they would be so strong. However, as long as they followed Qi Yanran, the legitimate successor of the Sparrow Divine Palace, it was only a matter of time before they rose up. At that time, these people wouldn't be able to be arrogant in front of them. They were too much and too arrogant. Qing Shilong didn't go back for the time being. He only asked Nangong Wuji and the others to go back and bring back the news that Mansion Master Song Heng might be from the devouring Yuan clan. He stayed behind just in case. Chapter 1483. Nangong Wuji and the others did not stay for long. Instead, they brought back the news of Song Heng. They did not expect that after mobilizing so many people, things still ended up like this. Chen Zhudao still managed to escape in the end. After all, Chen Zhudao was rescued by an absolute saint expert, so it was normal for him to be rescued. Li Zongjio would not blame them for this. At least, Li Tianqing and the others were fine. It was good that they were fine. There were some things that needed to be solved by his subordinates. Li Zongjio couldn't do everything himself. Otherwise, the efficiency would be very low. When Nangong Wuji and the others returned to the Sacred Flame Imperial City, they found that Li Zongjio had also entered seclusion. Nangong Wuji naturally did not want to disturb him. He could only report this to Xiao Zhao. Did the devouring Yuan clan appear? Long Ji came to Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao nodded. Long Ji was an expert from the Dragon Island. Xiao Zhao was also very clear about this. The latter's identity was very mysterious. Moreover, she had also made some transactions with the young master. Perhaps her relationship with the young master was not simple. Of course, Long Ji must have been recognized by young master. Otherwise, he would have chased Long Ji out as soon as he saw her. I'll go and check. Not all members of the devouring Yuan clan were killed. What Long Ji needed to do now was to rope in Li Zongjio. It would be best if she could persuade Li Zongjio to join Dragon Island, to become a foreign member. Then the Draconic Penitentiary would not have to fight to the death with Li Zongjio. Otherwise, this matter would blow up sooner or later. She could not do anything to Li Zongjio for now, so she had been holding back. Long Ji came here specifically to build a bridge of peace between Li Zongjio and Dragon Island. This was the only way to ensure the safety of everything. Everything could become more perfect without any casualties. Although the Dragon Island was very powerful now, if another disaster were to happen, who knows how long it would take for the island to recover. Long Ji volunteered to go and check on Song Heng. Xiao Zhao didn't stop Long Ji from going. After all, this matter mainly depended on Long Ji herself. If Long Ji was able to settle this matter, she wouldn't be able to continue if she wasn't strong enough. In the end, all the consequences would be borne by herself. She couldn't blame anyone else. Although they had become guests of White Deer Mansion, they were relatively free. It was fine as long as they did not do anything that would harm the mansion's interests. Their request was very simple. It did not matter if they were late for a few battles. Or not. After all, it doesn't matter whether you're there or not, it doesn't matter either. Xiao Zhao was doing his best to collect information on the Abyss race. The emergence of the Abyssal race was only limited to a few specific places. It wasn't a large-scale occurrence yet. However, it was necessary to prevent this from happening. Otherwise, there would be an even greater disaster. The 3,000 islands had already suffered a great disaster. There was an extremely tragic battle in the sea region because the Abyss race had suddenly appeared. They were mysterious and unpredictable, and their attacking methods were quite terrifying. They could even eat the entire island. Some of the smaller islands had also suffered heavy losses because they had been eaten clean. The people on the islands had nowhere to run. Therefore, it caused heavy casualties in a very short period of time. Of course, the entire Xingyan dynasty soon reacted. They also began to think of ways to deal with the Abyss race. There were always more solutions than difficulties. Therefore, when the problem appeared, these people did not feel afraid. Instead, they felt that this was a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. Li Zongjio did not directly enter the trial of the evil dragon eye. He first took a look at Qi Yanran, who was on the Green Bird platform. Qi Yanran's injuries were recovering well. Every time Li Zongjio saw her, he became angrier at the devouring Yuan race. He must kill all of these damn things. In any case, they were all disgusting things. Li Zongjio then took out the supreme green cauldron that he had obtained from Zhong Xianshan. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had also obtained the supreme green cauldron. At that time, he could only see that the supreme green cauldron was not ordinary. However, Li Zongjio himself could not tell what was different about it. In his previous life, he was not capable enough, so he could not find out the mysteries of the cauldron. It was different in this life. It was not easy to obtain this cauldron. Naturally, he had to study it carefully. Perhaps in this life, he could find something powerful in it. Supreme Green Cauldron. Li Zongjio remembered that he had not refined pills for a long time. He did not know how good his alchemy skills were now. He took out all the precious medicinal herbs that he had collected from the sacred martial realm. Then, he took out the dragon pearl of the White Dragon Clan's clan leader. I wonder if I can use you to refine a transcendent divine grade pill. Li Zongjio thought to himself. He wanted to challenge it. The quality of the materials in his hands had already surpassed the divine grade. The dragon pearl of the White Dragon Clan's clan leader was the finishing touch. Li Zongjio could only rely on his own consciousness to create the pill recipe. In his mind, there were countless combinations that were going through his mind at a rapid speed. At this moment, his talent in alchemy was quickly unleashed. He had been fighting and killing for so long that he almost forgot that he was an alchemist. I've got it. Thousands of combinations appeared in Li Zongjio's mind. In the end, Li Zongjio judged the possibility and feasibility of one of the combinations. The refining process was very risky. There was a risk that the cauldron would explode at any time. If the cauldron exploded, not only would the pill be destroyed, but all the herbs would be lost. There was also a possibility that he would be seriously injured by the explosion. However, Li Zongjio did not care. He did it as soon as he thought of it. First of all, he set up several layers of reinforcement in his secret room. If it was hit by a violent impact, it might be destroyed directly. The White Deer Mansion, which Nangong Wuji had painstakingly built, would be destroyed by the terrifying blast in an instant. The outcome was predictable. This pill was so terrifying that he had to control it well. His mental strength was fully activated. Li Zongjio threw the precious herbs into the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron. Immediately, the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron began to operate slowly. As Li Zongjio poured his primary energy into the cauldron, the herbs were being refined bit by bit. Some of the herbs had terrifying power. If one's strength was not enough, not only would they not be able to refine them, they might even be devoured by them. These spiritual herbs could directly suck one dry. Then, they would be injected into the herbs. In this way, one would be able to maintain a state of spiritual energy forever. It was indeed a little scary, right? However, in front of Li Zongjio, there were no such unexpected situations. He directly refined the pill in front of him in a relaxed and stable manner, and did not rush it. Instead, he was doing it slowly. It took Li Zongjio 7 days just to refine the medicinal liquid of the herbs. Even with Li Zongjio's cultivation, he still needed a full 7 days of refining before he could make all the necessary preparations. If Li Zongjio were to refine freely, it would probably take less than 2 days for him to refine the entire Sacred Flame Royal City. It was just that terrifying. White God Fu. Li Zongjio activated the White God Fu state. Mental Hell also activated Li Zongjio's mental state to the maximum. It was to ensure that every single drop of the medicinal liquid could be carried out neatly. It was extremely precise. If there was even the slightest deviation in the refining process, it could be destroyed directly. The spiritual energy in the cauldron was too strong. It seemed to have reached the limit of the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron. However, Li Zongjio had yet to put the real main ingredient in. This main ingredient was the dragon pearl of the White Dragon Clan leader. This item had great benefits. It was about to reach its limit now. If he really threw in the dragon pearl in his hand, the cauldron would definitely explode. Let me see what kind of power is hidden in the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron, Li Zongjio said in a deep voice. With the activation of Yuan power, the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron vibrated slightly, as if an ancient inscription had been activated. Under such strong pressure, it was activated. Li Zongjio's alchemy skills in his previous life were not able to force the Supreme Green Essence Cauldron to its limit. Even a god-level elixir could not. But now it could. After all, Li Zongjio was refining a super god-level elixir. A surge of supreme qi was released from the supreme green essence cauldron. This was the power that came with the supreme green essence cauldron. Immediately, the boiling medicinal liquid energy in the medicinal cauldron became quite gentle at this moment. Just a casual release of this power was enough to truly destroy the heavens and earth. Heaven fell and earth cracked. Even the sacred flame imperial city would be destroyed. However, this incomparably violent energy was actually suppressed by this sliver of zenith qi. It was as if the medicinal liquid energy was like a herd of obedient sheep in front of the supreme green essence cauldron, not daring to act rashly. What kind of power is this? Li Zongjio was very curious about the supreme qi that appeared, but it was obviously not the time to study it. After making the preparations, Li Zongjio also directly threw the Dragon Ball in. When the Dragon Pearl entered the supreme green essence cauldron, he immediately sensed that the supreme green origin cauldron seemed to be excited. It continued to release the supreme qi, suppressing the power in front of him. At the same time, the power of the White Dragon Clan's Dragon Pearl was gradually refined. Chapter 1484. So strong. Li Zongjio had not expected that the qi of the Exalted would be able to refine the Dragon Ball so easily. The Dragon Ball itself was an existence with extremely terrifying energy. Even if Li Zongjio wanted to refine it, it would take him at least 3 days. But in the face of the qi of the Exalted, it would be a matter of minutes. As Li Zongjio's strength increased, he discovered more and more new worlds. There were many things that he did not have the qualifications to perceive in the past. But now, things were different. Li Zongjio could see that these things were extraordinary. It wasn't that these things were not strong enough, but that he had not been able to fully utilize them. This was the deepest realization Li Zongjio had ever had. Different realms would see different things in different aspects. Li Zongjio was very careful. Although the qi of the Exalted was like an extremely rich sort of elixir, it could easily deal with these disobedient herbs. Li Zongjio was also very receptive to these new things. Therefore, Li Zongjio quickly began to condense the elixir in his hand. The qi of the Exalted could not help Li Zongjio condense the elixir, but it could easily refine the herbs. It could be considered an extremely powerful ability. With this kind of power in his hands, it would obviously be much easier to refine elixirs in the future. By summoning the qi of the Exalted, anything that was difficult to refine would be refined, and one would not be able to react at all. If he could refine even these medicinal herbs, it would be a piece of cake for him to refine a human being. This time, he took a full half a month to refine the elixir. Li Zongjio rarely spent so much time refining elixirs. Tianzong Academy, Zhong Xianshan was also forced to come here to teach under pressure. But at this moment, Zhong Xianshan had thought it through. He would be wasting his life in this deep forest, wasting his life to find a way to live forever. In the end, he would not succeed in anything. It would be better to nurture more young and promising disciples. If he imparted everything he had learned in his life to them, he might not be able to find the way to immortality, but perhaps the people in the future would be able to find the true way to immortality through his explanation. That could be considered a form of consolation. Zhongxian Mountain had its own open-air platform. Alchemy, of course, had to be taken out and practiced in broad daylight. Only in this way could you better improve your alchemy skills and find the key to the problem. However, Zhong Xuanshan's training method was a little unique. These people actually had to recite ancient poems while refining pills. If not for the fact that Zhong Xianshan had managed to concoct a grade 6 pill single-handedly, shocking everyone present, no one would have believed what he said. This kind of pill concoction training method was really effective, and not just for the sake of making a fool out of themselves. After all, the strength that Zhong Xianshan had unknowingly displayed was rather terrifying. He had managed to refine a grade 6 pill so easily. Even some of the experts in the Heavenly Pill Pavilion did not have the ability to do so. Those people from the Heavenly Pill Pavilion always claimed that they were invincible just because they could refine a grade 6 pill. They did not even put others in their eyes. The reason why the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was so powerful was because they had 2 grade 6 alchemists who often gave lectures there. Now, the Heavenly Sect Academy also had top-notch alchemists. Teacher Zhong, may I ask if your alchemy skills are the best in the world? A little lowly could not help but ask. This little lowly was also one of the more talented ones. After being recruited, she had been heavily groomed. Zhong Xianshan was also interested in grooming the latter's alchemy skills. However, although the latter was young, her comprehension was extremely high. Hearing the little lowly taking the lead, everyone raised their heads and looked at Zhong Xianshan. Xia Shui was among them. The matters of the abyssal race did not require them to go out every day. This Master Zhong did not have a class every day. Therefore, as long as there was a class, all the seats would be full. If one could not make a reservation, they could only wait for the next class. As a top-notch disciple of the academy, Xia Xuan naturally had the privilege of being arranged directly. This was the reason why one had to be smart. When one's strength was strong enough, one would realize that there were so many privileges in the world that one could use. Everyone looked at Zhong Xianshan. Even a few of the instructors who were listening at the side looked at Zhong Xianshan. This kind of question was usually more sensitive. However, this little lowly knew of her status and knew that she was favored. Therefore, she did not beat around the bush. Zhong Xianshan smiled mysteriously when he heard this. Since he was here to enjoy it. Zhong Xianshan enjoyed the admiring gazes of the masses. He needed such admiring gazes, and this was the kind of gazes he needed. You must know that there is always someone better than you. In this world, no one can be number one forever. But from the looks of it, I can only call myself number one for the time being. When Zhong Xianshan started bragging, it was to the point where he was shameless. Someone asked again. It was said that the great evil lord could refine grade 9 pills. Could Instructor Zhong do it? Zhong Xianshan knew that someone would ask this. Then he pondered for a moment. Grade 9 pills. That's really a distant dream. When the crowd heard this, they thought that even Instructor Zhong Xianshan could not refine grade 9 pills. Then the great evil lord was still the best. I remember that the last time I refined a grade 9 pill was 280 years ago. Zhong Xianshan lifted his head and said. His eyes were looking at the sky, as if he was reminiscing about something extremely distant. But the moment he said that, the crowd went into an uproar. No one knew that Zhong Xianshan was an old man who did not look very energetic. Furthermore, he had a bitter expression on his face every day. It was as if he was forced to stay here. To think that he was so powerful. He was already able to refine grade 9 pills 280 years ago. That was close to 300 years ago. Now that 300 years had passed, what kind of improvement would he have made? How terrifying would his cultivation be? Wouldn't he be able to refine God-grade pills directly? All the disciples looked at Zhong Xianshan with stars in their eyes. This old man was really a living treasure. He was a living treasure. Xia Shui's eyes were also shining brightly. There was no need for an expert of this level to lie. With such an expert in the Sky Sect Academy, it would be their own problem if they, as students, could not make a name for themselves. At this moment, Zhong Xianshan was enjoying the admiring gazes of the crowd. There was no need to mention how exhilarated he was. What's that? The little lowly suddenly shouted and pointed at the sky in the distance. At this moment, there was actually a purple cloud that was rapidly condensing in the sky. Everyone was shocked by the appearance of this purple cloud. They had heard that pill lightning was black in color. However, they had never seen a purple cloud before. Could it be that some kind of demon had entered the city? It looks like pill lightning. How is that possible? Are you stupid? Pill lightning is always black. Since when was there a purple one? Someone immediately refuted. Purple pill lightning. When Zhong Xianshan saw this thundercloud, he was certain that it was a purple pill lightning tribulation cloud. Ordinary pill lightning was naturally black. However, there was a type of pill lightning that was purple in color. It was almost impossible for this type of pill lightning to trigger a pill lightning of this level. Even if he were to give it his all, it would still be impossible. This was because purple pill lightning could only be triggered by a transcendent pill. Furthermore, this purple pill lightning did not have the slightest bit of destructive power. At the same time, the appearance of the other party was actually a way to celebrate the birth of a transcendent pill. A transcendent pill did not need any pill lightning to refine it. Holy shit! How is this possible? Zhong Xianshan watched as the purple pill lightning grew bigger and bigger. There was no concealment at all. Who was it that managed to refine a transcendent pill under the circumstances that he was bragging about? Zhong Xianshan was not humble when he said that he was only the number one in the world temporarily. This temporary period seemed to be a little short. In just a few minutes, this position had already been given to someone else. This made Zhong Xianshan feel rather shocked. The strength of the other party was simply too horrifying. Just who in the world was this person? To think that he could concoct a transcendent-grade pill. Alchemists from all over the city also climbed up to the roofs of their own houses to pay their respects to this thundercloud. Purple pill lightning is hard to come by in 10,000 years. Who is it? Just who is it? Could it be that someone has concocted a transcendent pill? The entire city was boiling with excitement. Azure Sea Academy. Yu Manzhou looked at the purple pill lightning brewing in the sky. In an instant, it felt as though a bolt of lightning had exploded in front of him. What the hell? Where did this purple pill lightning come from? Was he dreaming? What kind of place is that? Who refined a transcendent Dan? Yu Manzhou's alchemy skills had already reached the peak of the 9th grade and had yet to reach the divine level. As for Zhong Xianshan, he was barely at the level of a demigod. There was still a certain distance between him and a true god. However, the sudden appearance of a transcendent was too frightening. A transcendent. Chapter 1485. It's in the direction of the White Deer Mansion. White Deer Mansion. It's the White Deer Mansion again. When everyone received the same answer, they all widened their eyes in shock. The White Deer Mansion was a place where people liked to play tricks. It hadn't been long, but another group of people had been released, causing a commotion from time to time. Now, even the purple pill lightning and the transcendent divine level pills were produced. The purple pill lightning turned into auspicious qi and was directly collected by Li Zongjio, who was in the White Deer Mansion. All of it was injected into the 3 pills in his hand. In the end, the 3 pills slowly took shape. Li Zongjio looked at the 3 pills in his hand and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I succeeded. This half a month was very long, but fortunately, Li Zongjio succeeded. For Li Zongjio, the last half a month of condensing time was simply going to cost him his life. Fortunately, he succeeded. I'll call you the soaring pill, Li Zongjio said. After putting away the 3 flying pills, the chances of concocting a second batch of flying pills were very slim, because it meant that he had to continue killing the leader of the White Dragon clan and take out his dragon orb. Only then could he succeed. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't want to refine another batch in a short period of time. The refining process could be said to be something that Li Zongjio didn't want to experience a second time. The feeling of being completely emptied was too uncomfortable. I wonder what kind of effect this transcendent divine level pill will bring to me. Li Zongjio thought to himself. This was equivalent to an 11th grade pill. Without the physique of an absolute saint, it was impossible to withstand the impact of the energy. Even if Qi Yanran came, it was estimated that it would be difficult for her to refine this medicinal pill. If she was not careful, she would directly be stuffed to death by this medicinal pill. Li Zongjio wasn't in a hurry to consume the flying pill. Instead, he first adjusted his breathing and adjusted his state to a peak state. At least, he wanted a slow and steady improvement. The more anxious the situation was, the more he needed to know how to calm down. Otherwise, the moment he ate the pill, it would spoil everything. The White Deer Mansion regained its tranquility. However, the appearance of the purple pill lightning had taught everyone in the Sacred Flame Royal City a lesson. Evil Lord Li Zongjio, who had disappeared for 2 years. Even if all of you added up, you still wouldn't be able to catch up to him. He was already able to concoct transcendent divine-grade pills. How could ordinary people catch up to him? So scary. Zhong Xuanshan's heart was filled with emotions, and 1,000 waves were stirred up in his heart. He had heard of Li Zongjiu's pill concoction skills before. To be able to touch the threshold of a grade 9 pill at such a young age was indeed very good. However, Zhong Xianshan was about the same back then. But from the looks of it now, this Li Zongjiu was simply a monster among monsters. Instructor Zhong, can you also trigger such a pill lightning? The little lowly asked in front of Zhong Xianshan. Zhong Xuanshan's face changed immediately. How was that possible? He was still far from the purple pill lightning. It could be said that the difference was like heaven and earth. In fact, he had never even triggered the purple pill lightning before. If he was given another 100 years, he might have a chance to touch the threshold of this level. In fact, this was his first time seeing the legendary purple pill lightning. In the end, whether it was a transcendent divine-grade pill or not was no longer important. Whether it was or not, it was still above Zhong Xuanshan's cultivation. What a scary guy. Zhong Xianshan shook his head. Indeed, there was always someone better than you. Li Zongjiu could be said to be the highest mountain in the world right now. No one had ever been able to climb it. In fact, this mountain had already flown into the sky. Just the terrifying strength that Li Zongjiu had displayed was not something that the people in front of him could catch up to. It was hard to imagine. What's the point of arguing all the time? The only thing that's useful is to refine the pills in your hands. Zhong Xianshan reprimanded. Everyone instantly understood. Even Instructor Zhong could not achieve such a level. He was just too embarrassed to admit it. Even though Zhong Xianshan was unable to concoct a transcendent divine-grade pill, he was still the second strongest person in the group after Li Zongjiu. He still had this bit of confidence. The reputation that he had gained hundreds of years ago was not for nothing. Otherwise, even the master of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wouldn't have personally come here to arrange things after the news of him leaving the mountain had spread. Just this alone was enough to make it difficult for others to do so. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's master was also very capable. It was just that Li Zongjiu's brilliance was too dazzling. He could not compete with him at all. Everyone clearly understood this. The evil dominator, Li Zongjiu, did not disappear without a trace. It was not that his cultivation had decreased. It was that his cultivation level was too high. You people could no longer catch up. I won't play with you anymore. What else was there to say? Work hard to improve your strength and catch up. There were still many people who wanted to curry favor with the White Deer Mansion. However, they were all blocked by the people sent by Xiao Zhao. He didn't know where these people came from, but they overestimated themselves. Lord Xiao Zhao, Zhou Bichuan has sent a letter. Tai Fai looked at the messenger pigeon in his hand. This pigeon was a very special kind of pigeon. It was extremely fast. Zhou Bichuan. Previously, Li Zongjiu had arranged for him to guard the border in Luoxia City. However, Luoxia City was too safe. In addition, there were also some movements from the Devouring Yuan clan and the Abyss clan recently. Xiao Zhao directly called for this tiger general. He asked Zhou Bichuan to go and look for news about the Devouring Yuan clan. Now that he had sent a message back, it was obvious that he had found something. Xiao Zhao opened the letter from Zhou Bichuan. There was only one sentence in it. The Devouring Yuan clan is in chaos. Tell Zhou Bichuan not to act rashly. After finding out the specific information of the other party, we will make a plan. After all, Zhou Bichuan was an ancient person. Therefore, he had some understanding of the Devouring Yuan clan. It was not a problem to find them. The Devouring Yuan clan was also a clan left behind from ancient times. It seemed that Zhou Bichuan's perception was quite sharp. As for the Abyss clan, Wang Ding and the others were investigating. It could even be said that they were fighting on many fronts now. There were disasters from the Abyss clan in many places. After hearing about the Sea God Palace in the Four Seas, the Sea Empress was rushing to Sacred Flame Royal City at full speed to ask for help. As long as the Sea Empress came, she would definitely bring some news about the Abyss clan. At present, the Sea Empress was guarding the Four Seas, so it was relatively safe. After all, The Sea Empress had a divine artifact and her cultivation was already in the sovereign realm. Naturally, there was nothing to be afraid of. For the time being, she could hold up for a while. However, no one knew what would happen in the future. All kinds of things fell on Xiao Zhao's shoulders, but Xiao Zhao did not feel the slightest panic. Long Ji had actually returned. After chasing for a long time, he still could not find the guy from the Devouring Yuan clan. After all, the Devouring Yuan clan was an expert in hiding their aura. They looked just like ordinary people. If the other party was not willing to take action, it was impossible to distinguish their aura. That guy hasn't come out of seclusion yet? Long Ji obviously wanted to play with Li Zongjio. After all, other than Li Zongjio, the rest of the people were too weak to play with. How many people in the city could speak normally in front of Long Ji? If they focused their gaze on you, you would feel like you were about to collapse. This was really normal because your strength was not as strong as Long Ji's. The gap between their realms was obvious. Miss Long Ji, don't forget that you are also the tactical combat instructor of the Sky Sect Academy. Xiao Zhao saw that Long Ji seemed a little bored, so he simply reminded her. Xiao Zhao did not have any plans to order Long Ji around. After all, Long Ji was too strong. Xiao Zhao could feel it. However, he could not let her do nothing all day. She had to at least do something. Ah, right, I almost forgot. Long Ji suddenly realized that she did have such an identity. Back then, she had taken the initiative to volunteer. In the end, she did not even know where the entrance of the academy was, let alone going to class. I'm ashamed. I'll go take a look now. Long Ji was swift and decisive. In an instant she left the White Deer Mansion. Xiao Zhao shook his head helplessly. Therefore, people had to have some goals. Otherwise, if you stayed here all day, you would not know what to do. Aimless. Wasn't this kind of life very scary? After that, Xiao Zhao continued to deal with the matters at hand. He sorted out his confidence and deployed the manpower reasonably. These things should be done by Emperor Xingyan. However, Xiao Zhao listened to Li Zongjio's orders. Since it was a task given by Li Zongjio, of course, he had to complete it. In the secret chamber, Li Zongjio rested for 3 days. In the middle, he even took the time to sneak out to eat pickled fish. Only then did he return. There was a pill in his hand. It was clear. The light was restrained. With just a glance, he felt deeply attracted to the latter. Super divine level pill, soaring pill. It was as if lying in the palm of his hand was a rare beauty. There was no time to admire it. Li Zongjio opened his mouth and swallowed the soaring pill in his hand. The soaring pill was like a pool of clear water in his mouth. There was no fluctuation at all. Suddenly, this pool of clear water turned into a long river in the blink of an eye. It was flowing in Li Zongjio's body. Chapter 1486. Although Li Zongjio had expected this, when the power of the soaring pill erupted, he was still shocked. However, he was still shocked by it. But fortunately, the trial in the evil dragon's eye was effective. In the face of such an emergency situation, he had a subconscious reaction. In an instant, he reacted and firmly caught the power. After that, success came naturally. However, the power of a transcendent level pill was not so easy to control. During the process, Li Zongjio also quickly adjusted his own power. Then, he gradually poured the transcendent level pill into his body. It filled his 10 directions hell. Boom! At the same time, in Li Zongjio's dantian, there was also the power of will condensing. With the appearance of this will, there was also a small hammer. The power of this flying ascension pill was mainly used to refine his small hammer. Faintly, there was also a kind of power that appeared in Li Zongjio's mind. Innate Level 1. Li Zongjio was taken aback by the sudden command. Innate Level 1, what did it mean? Although Li Zongjio had yet to figure out what Innate Level 1 meant, he was able to sense it very quickly. At this moment, his mental power was sublimated. In the blink of an eye, Li Zongjio could even feel that his thoughts had become faster. He even had a feeling that as long as he looked at anything, he could easily see through its essence. Such a strong change made Li Zongjio a little excited. This innate level 1 realm should belong to the level of the power of will. Before this, Li Zongjio was not at the innate level. If this was the case, then before the innate level was the postnatal level. The postnatal level was divided into several levels. Li Zongjio taught Fu Ding in the sacred martial realm. He quickly grasped the power of will through the method taught by him. Moreover, he used the demon-suppressing ruler to perfection. At this moment, he was probably at the entry level of the postliminary stage, which was the level of postliminary stage level 1. Although Qi Yanran's willpower was inherited, Qi Yanran did not truly master this willpower at that time. However, she was still stronger than Fu Ding. He could be considered a level 2 pre-celestial. On the other hand, Li Zongjio's cultivation speed was relatively fast. After all, he had studied for an entire year to pave the way for his willpower. It should also be equivalent to pre-celestial stage 3. From that point of view, it was because he had taken the flying pill today. He had broken through to innate level 1. Therefore, the cultivation realm of willpower was temporarily divided according to what Li Zongjio felt. If the experience of the predecessors could be used directly. Of course, Li Zongjio would be able to feel his own power more clearly and what level it belonged to. He didn't have to use his own experience to classify it. There must have been someone who had reached this level in the past. Li Zongjio believed that. For example, the Saint Martial Emperor. On this Saint Martial continent, he was a true master who had once unified the world. This person must have also cultivated willpower. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to kill his way out of the encirclement of so many masters. Moreover, becoming the master of this world was also an extremely strong challenge to his willpower. If one's willpower was not enough, they would not be able to bear this name. They would never be able to sit firmly on this level. If the other party could bear this weight, it meant that the Saint Martial Emperor had willpower. Li Zongjio himself didn't know what level the Saint Martial Emperor's willpower had reached. The flying pill continued to release energy. Soon, Li Zongjio's own strength also increased rapidly. Previously, his Yuan energy cultivation had been stuck at the level of first stage Absolute Saint. Now, he had entered the level of second stage Absolute Saint. However, the Yuan energy cultivation of the Absolute Saint realm was actually equivalent to a fixed amount of water in a large vat. After filling this vat, it would naturally rise. The division of realms was not that important. What was really important was the tempering of willpower and the mastery of one's own unique skills. In fact, there was no real division of power between the Absolute Saint realm and the Absolute Saint realm. From the beginning to the end, it was just a realm. The strength of one's strength was shown through other aspects. If one could master a strong willpower, it would be like how Li Zongjio could easily kill the generals of the fallen race. In fact, willpower was also the advantage. Blindly increasing one's Yuan energy cultivation. The Yuan energy of an Absolute Saint was already inexhaustible. If one continued to increase their Yuan energy, wouldn't it be a waste of energy? No one had ever heard of an Absolute Saint, or even a sovereign, who was killed in a battle because they ran out of Yuan energy. Basically, it was because they were not skilled enough and were not a match for their opponent at all. Then they were killed. However, this was also a natural process, and it was difficult to deliberately stop him. Li Zongjio was also trying to improve his own strength. He was breaking through rapidly. While Li Zongjio was cultivating in the secret room, the outside world was already in a state of war. Many cities near the water were also attacked by the abyssal race. This was because the abyssal race was reproducing too quickly and their numbers were extremely large. Therefore, the Ocean Empress also came up with an effective plan to find the mother of the abyssal race. Once the mother of the abyssal race was killed, the remaining abyssal race would gradually lose their vitality and it would be easier to deal with them. Long Ji was in the sacred flame royal city, so she was not harassed by the abyssal race. If there were, Long Ji would have already killed them. Along the way, Long Ji also went to the deep sea to explore. The seal was good. With the current strength of the abyssal race, there was no way to destroy the seal for the time being. After all, Long Ji's strength was not to be trifled with. She was the #1 young expert of the Dragon Penitentiary on Dragon Island. Even the position of the Dragon Penitentiary's warden in the future would basically be held by Long Ji. Originally, it was the evil dragon god. However, this guy had turned bad and wanted to destroy the harmony of the Dragon Island. Naturally, such a thing could not be allowed to happen. However, for Long Ji to be listed as the warden of the Dragon Penitentiary, it was enough to see how powerful Long Ji was. She was a truly terrifying existence. Therefore, the abyssal race that was causing trouble outside was actually only a small portion. If the portal was completely opened, it would be troublesome. It was likely that they would be in big trouble. For safety reasons, Long Ji continued to reinforce the previous seal. Dealing with the abyssal race. Li Zongjio had previously instructed that the disciples of the Sky Sect Academy must be on the battlefield and participate in the trial. Now, Long Ji was also with the Ocean Empress of the Four Seas. They were going to find the mother of the abyssal race. As long as they killed this guy, the number of abyssal race would not continue to increase. Killing one would mean one less abyssal race. Moreover, they would not have such a clear unity to attack. Basically, they would swim around randomly like a plate of loose sand. However, these abyssal race had a bigger appetite. If they were allowed to eat continuously, the number of creatures in the water would be reduced by more than half sooner or later. The diversity of the creatures would decrease directly. At the same time, Xiao Zhao received another piece of information. It said that Zhou Bachuan, who was moving in the portal, had been discovered by the Devouring Yuan clan. Now, the Devouring Yuan clan was chasing after Zhou Bachuan and the others. The situation was critical. Damn it! Xiao Zhao also knew that the Devouring Yuan clan was difficult to deal with. If one did not know how to cultivate his body, one would basically be courting death in front of the Devouring Yuan clan. Fortunately, Zhou Bachuan was good at cultivating his body. Leading these ancient soldiers, they all followed the body refinement method. What's wrong, Xiao Zhao? Just as Xiao Zhao was at his wit's end, Li Zongjio magically appeared in front of Xiao Zhao. Young master! Xiao Zhao was pleasantly surprised to see Li Zongjio out of seclusion. It's about the Devouring Yuan clan. Devouring Yuan clan? Where are they? Li Zongjio asked. How could he not be excited when he heard the news about the Devouring Yuan clan? He couldn't wait to kill all the members of the clan. To vent the hatred in his heart. Since he had said that he would exterminate the Devouring Yuan clan, he had to do it. Otherwise, he would be going back on his word. That would not do. That was why Li Zongjio had sent people to gather information about the Devouring Yuan clan. We discovered that the people from the Devouring Yuan clan are in the midst of a riot. Furthermore, that Songheng Mansion's Mansion Master of the Azure Ocean Academy is most likely a member of the Devouring Yuan clan. Earlier, when Chen Zhudao of the Azure Ocean Academy wanted to attack the Sunset City, he was stopped by Songheng Mansion. Xiao Zhao also sorted out the information she had gathered during this period of time and told them about it. Long Ji had already gone to deal with the Devouring Yuan clan. Qing Shilong was guarding Luoxia City. In addition, the master of the Azure Sea Academy seemed to be related to the Devouring Yuan clan. In the portal, Zhou Bachuan was attacked by the Devouring Yuan clan. Now, he was on the run and his life was in danger. He could be in great danger at any time. Very well. In that case, I will make a trip to the portal, Li Zongjio said. Since he had found out about the Devouring Yuan clan, he would go and deal with them directly. First, he would deal with the Devouring Yuan clan. Then he would kill Chen Zhudao. As for what the Azure Sea Academy was up to, Li Zongjio did not care. If they dared to obstruct him or found out that they were related to the Devouring Yuan clan, he would kill them all. Li Zongjio immediately went to the portal. With the young master's help, Zhou Bachuan and the others would definitely be able to escape. However, the prerequisite was that Zhou Bachuan and the others could hold on until Li Zongjio arrived. Chapter 1487. It's in the direction of the White Deer Mansion. White Deer Mansion. It was the White Deer Mansion again. When everyone received the same answer, they all widened their eyes in shock. The White Deer Mansion was a place where people liked to play tricks the most. It hadn't been long, but another group of people had been released, causing a commotion from time to time. Now, even the Purple Pill Lightning and the Super God level pill were produced. The Purple Pill Lightning turned into auspicious chi and was directly collected by Li Zongjio, who was in the White Deer Mansion. All of it was injected into the 3 pills in his hand. In the end, the 3 pills slowly took shape. Li Zongjio looked at the 3 pills in his hand and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I succeeded. This half a month was very long, but fortunately, Li Zongjio succeeded. For Li Zongjio, the last half a month of condensing time was simply going to cost him his life. Fortunately, he succeeded. I'll call you the Soaring Pill, Li Zongjio said. After putting away the 3 flying pills, the chances of concocting a second batch of flying pills were very slim, because it meant that he had to continue to kill the leader of the White Dragon clan and take out his dragon pearl. Only then could he succeed. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't want to refine another batch of soaring pills in a short time. The refining process could be said that Li Zongjio didn't want to go through it a second time. The feeling of being completely emptied was really too uncomfortable. I wonder what kind of effect this Super God level pill will bring to me. Li Zongjio thought to himself. This was equivalent to an 11th grade pill. Without the physical quality of an absolute saint, it was impossible to withstand the impact of the energy. Even if Qi Yanran came, it would be difficult for her to refine this pill. The slightest carelessness could cause one to be stuffed to death by this pill. Li Zongjio wasn't in a hurry to consume the soaring pill first. Instead, he first adjusted his breathing and adjusted his condition to the peak. At the very least, he needed to improve slowly and steadily. The more anxious the situation was, the more he needed to know how to calm down. Otherwise, if he consumed this pill, it would spoil everything. The White Deer Mansion returned to its peaceful state. However, the appearance of the Purple Pill Lightning just now taught everyone in the Sacred Flame Imperial City a lesson. Evil Lord Li Zongjio, who had disappeared for 2 years. Even if all of you added up, you still wouldn't be able to catch up to him. He was already able to concoct transcendent divine grade pills. How could ordinary people catch up to him? So scary. Zhong Xuanshan's heart was filled with emotions, and 1,000 waves were stirred up in his heart. He had heard of Li Zongjio's pill refining skills before. To be able to touch the threshold of a 9th grade pill at such a young age was indeed very good. However, Zhong Xianshan was about the same back then. But now, it seemed like this Li Zongjio was a monster among monsters. Instructor Zhong, can you trigger such a pill lightning as well? The little lowly asked in front of Zhong Xianshan. Zhong Xuanshan's face changed immediately. How was that possible? He was far from the Purple Pill Lightning. It could be said that the difference was like heaven and earth. In fact, he hadn't even triggered the Purple Pill Lightning before. If he was given another 100 years, he might have a chance to touch the threshold of this level. In fact, this was the first time he had seen the legendary Purple Pill Lightning. In the end, it didn't matter whether it was a transcendent pill or not. Whether it was or not, it was still above Zhong Xuanshan's cultivation. What a scary guy. Zhong Xianshan shook his head. Indeed, there would always be someone better than you. Li Zongjio could be said to be the highest mountain in the world right now. No one had ever been able to climb it. In fact, this mountain had already flown into the sky. Just the terrifying strength that Li Zongjio had displayed was not something that the people in front of him could catch up to. It was hard to imagine. What's the point of arguing all the time? The only thing that's useful is to refine the pills in your hands. Zhong Xianshan reprimanded. Everyone instantly understood. Even Instructor Zhong couldn't do that. He was just too embarrassed to admit it. Even though Zhong Xianshan was unable to concoct a transcendent divine grade pill, he was still the strongest person after Li Zongjio. He still had this bit of confidence. His reputation from hundreds of years ago wasn't for nothing. Otherwise, even the master of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wouldn't have personally come here to arrange things after the news of him leaving the mountain had spread. Just this alone was enough to make it difficult for others to do so. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's Manor Lord was also very capable. It was just that Li Zongjio's brilliance was too dazzling. He couldn't compete with him at all. Everyone clearly understood this. Evil Lord Li Zongjio hadn't disappeared. It wasn't that his cultivation had declined. It was that his realm was too high for people like them to catch up. I won't play with you anymore. What else was there to say? Work hard to improve your strength and catch up. There were still many people who wanted to curry favor with the White Deer Mansion. However, they were all stopped by Xiao Zhao's men. He didn't know where these people came from, but they overestimated themselves. Lord Xiao Zhao, Zhou Bichuan has sent a letter. Tai Fai looked at the messenger pigeon in his hand. This pigeon was a very special kind of pigeon. It was extremely fast. Zhou Bichuan. Li Zongjio had arranged for him to guard the border of Luoxia City. However, Luoxia City was too safe. In addition, there were also some movements from the Devouring Yuan clan and the Abyss clan recently. Xiao Zhao directly called for this tiger general. He asked Zhou Bichuan to go and look for information about the Devouring Yuan clan. Now that he had sent a message back, it was obvious that he had found something. Xiao Zhao opened the letter sent by Zhou Bichuan. There was only one sentence in it. The Devouring Yuan clan is in chaos. Tell Zhou Bichuan not to act rashly. After finding out the specific information of the other party, we will make a plan. After all, Zhou Bichuan was an ancient person. Therefore, he had some understanding of the Devouring Yuan clan. It was basically no problem to find them. The Devouring Yuan clan was also a clan left behind from the ancient times. It seemed that Zhou Bichuan's perception was quite sharp. As for the Abyss clan, Wang Ding and the others were investigating. It could even be said that they were fighting on many fronts now. There were disasters from the Abyss clan in many places. Hearing that the Sea Empress of the Sea God Palace in the Four Seas, she was now rushing to Sacred Flame Royal City at full speed to ask for help. As long as the Sea Empress came, she would definitely bring some information about the Abyss clan. Currently, the Four Seas had the Sea Empress in charge, so it was still relatively safe. After all, the Sea Empress had a divine artifact and her cultivation was already in the sovereign realm. Naturally, there was nothing to be afraid of. For the time being, she could hold up for a while. However, no one knew what would happen in the future. All kinds of things fell on Xiao Zhao's shoulders, but Xiao Zhao did not feel panicked at all. Long Ji had actually returned. After chasing for a long time, he still could not find the guy from the Devouring Yuan clan. After all, the Devouring Yuan clan was an expert in concealing their aura. They looked just like ordinary people. If the other party was not willing to take action, it was impossible to distinguish their aura. That guy hasn't come out of seclusion yet? Long Ji obviously wanted to play with Li Zongjio. After all, other than Li Zongjio, the other people's levels were too low. They could not play together at all. How many people in this city could speak normally in front of Long Ji? If their gazes focused on you, you would feel like you were about to break down. This was too normal because your strength was not as good as Long Ji's. The gap between their realms was obvious. Miss Long Ji, don't forget that you are also the tactical combat instructor of the Sky Sect Academy. Xiao Zhao saw that Long Ji seemed a little bored, so he simply reminded her. Xiao Zhao did not have any plans to order Long Ji around. After all, Long Ji was too strong. Xiao Zhao could feel it. However, he could not let her do nothing all day. She had to at least do something. Ah, right, I almost forgot. Long Ji suddenly realized that she did have such an identity. Back then, she had taken the initiative to volunteer. In the end, she did not even know where the entrance of the academy was, let alone going to class. I'm ashamed. I'll go take a look now. Long Ji was swift and decisive. In an instant she left the White Deer Mansion. Xiao Zhao shook his head helplessly. Therefore, people had to have some goals. Otherwise, if you stayed here all day, you would not know what to do. Aimless. Wasn't this kind of life very scary? After that, Xiao Zhao continued to deal with the matters at hand. He sorted out his confidence and allocated the manpower reasonably. These things should be done by Emperor Xingyan. However, Xiao Zhao listened to Li Zongjio's orders. Since it was a task given by Li Zongjio, of course, he had to complete it. In the secret chamber. Li Zongjio rested for 3 days. In the middle, he even took the time to sneak out to eat pickled fish. Only then did he return. In his hand lay a pill. It was clear. The light was restrained. With just a glance, he felt deeply attracted to the latter. Super divine level pill, soaring pill. It was as if the one lying in the palm of his hand was a beauty that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. There was no time to admire it. Li Zongjio opened his mouth and swallowed the soaring pill in his hand. The soaring pill was like a pool of clear water in his mouth. There was no fluctuation at all. Suddenly, this pool of clear water turned into a long river in the blink of an eye. In Li Zongjio's body, it flowed rapidly. Chapter 1488. Although Li Zongjio had expected this, when the power of the soaring pill erupted, he was still shocked. However, he was still shocked by it. But fortunately, the trial in the evil dragon's eye was effective. In the face of such an emergency situation, he had a subconscious reaction. In an instant, he reacted and firmly caught the power. After that, success came naturally. However, the power of a transcendent level pill was not so easy to control. During the process, Li Zongjio also quickly adjusted his own power. Then, he gradually poured the transcendent level pill into his body. It filled his 10 directions hell. Boom! At the same time, in Li Zongjio's dantian, there was also the power of will condensing. With the appearance of this will, there was also a small hammer. The power of this flying ascension pill was mainly used to refine his small hammer. Faintly, there was also a kind of power that appeared in Li Zongjio's mind. Innate level 1. Li Zongjio was taken aback by the sudden command. Innate level 1, what did it mean? Although Li Zongjio had yet to figure out what innate level 1 meant, he was able to sense it very quickly. At this moment, his mental power was sublimated. In the blink of an eye, Li Zongjio could even feel that his thoughts had become faster. He even had a feeling that as long as he looked at anything, he could easily see through its essence. Such a strong change made Li Zongjio a little excited. This innate level 1 realm should belong to the level of the power of will. Before this, Li Zongjio was not at the innate level. If this was the case, then before the innate level was the postnatal level. The postnatal level was divided into several levels. Li Zongjio taught Fu Ding in the sacred martial realm. He quickly grasped the power of will through the method taught by him. Moreover, he used the demon-suppressing ruler to perfection. At this moment, he was probably at the entry level of the postliminary stage, which was the postliminary stage level 1. Although Qi Yanran's willpower was inherited, Qi Yanran did not truly master this willpower at that time. However, she was still stronger than Fu Ding. He could be considered a level 2 pre-celestial. On the other hand, Li Zongjio's cultivation speed was relatively fast. After all, he had studied for an entire year to pave the way for his willpower. It should also be equivalent to pre-celestial stage 3. From that point of view, it was because he had taken the flying pill today. He had broken through to innate level 1. Therefore, the cultivation realm of willpower was temporarily divided according to what Li Zongjio felt. If the experience of the predecessors could be used directly. Of course, Li Zongjio would be able to clearly feel his own strength and what level it belonged to. He didn't have to use his own experience to classify it. There must have been someone who had reached this level in the past. Li Zongjio believed that. For example, the Saint Martial Emperor. On this Saint Martial continent, he was a true master who had once unified the world. This person must have also cultivated willpower. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to kill his way out of the encirclement of so many masters and become the master of this world. It was also an extremely strong challenge to one's willpower. If one's willpower was not enough, they would not be able to bear this name. They would never be able to sit firmly on this level. If the other party could bear this weight, it meant that the Saint Martial Emperor had willpower. Li Zongjio himself didn't know what level the Saint Martial Emperor's willpower had reached. The flying pill continued to release energy. Soon, Li Zongjio's strength also increased rapidly. Previously, his Yuan energy cultivation had been stuck at the level 1 absolute saint realm. Now, he had entered the level 2 Absolute Saint realm. However, the yuan energy cultivation of the Absolute Saint realm was actually equivalent to a fixed amount of water in a large vat. After filling this vat, it would naturally rise. The division of realms was not that important. What was really important was the tempering of willpower and the mastery of one's own unique skills. In fact, there was no real division of power between the Absolute Saint realm and the Absolute Saint realm. From the beginning to the end, it was just a realm. The strength of one's strength was shown through other aspects. If one could master a strong willpower, it would be like how Li Zongjiu could easily kill the generals of the fallen race. In fact, willpower was also the advantage. Blindly increasing one's yuan energy cultivation. The yuan energy of an absolute saint was already inexhaustible. It would be a waste of energy if one continued to increase one's yuan energy. No one had ever heard of an absolute saint or even a sovereign being killed because they ran out of yuan energy in a battle. Basically, it was because they were not skilled enough and were not a match for their opponent at all. Then they were killed. However, this was also a natural process, and it was difficult to deliberately stop him. Li Zongjiu was also trying to improve his own strength. He was breaking through rapidly. While Li Zongjiu was cultivating in the secret room, the outside world was already in a state of war. Many cities near the water were also attacked by the abyssal race. This was because the abyssal race was reproducing too quickly and their numbers were extremely large. Therefore, the Ocean Empress also came up with an effective plan to find the mother of the abyssal race. Once the mother of the abyssal race was killed, the remaining abyssal race would gradually lose their vitality and it would be easier to deal with them. Long Ji was in the sacred flame royal city, so she was not harassed by the abyssal race. If there were, Long Ji would have already killed them. Along the way, Long Ji also went to the deep sea to explore. The seal was good. With the current strength of the abyssal race, there was no way to destroy the seal for the time being. After all, Long Ji's strength was not to be trifled with. She was the #1 young expert of the Dragon Penitentiary on Dragon Island. Even the position of the Dragon Penitentiary's warden in the future would basically be held by Long Ji. Originally, it was the evil dragon god. However, this guy had turned bad and wanted to destroy the harmony of the Dragon Island. Naturally, such a thing could not be allowed to happen. However, for Long Ji to be listed as the warden of the Dragon Penitentiary, it was enough to see how powerful Long Ji was. She was a truly terrifying existence. Therefore, the abyssal race that was causing trouble outside was actually only a small portion. If the portal was completely opened, it would be troublesome. It was likely that they would be in big trouble. For safety reasons, Long Ji continued to reinforce the previous seal. The matter of dealing with the abyssal race. Li Zongjiu had previously instructed that the disciples of the Sky Sect Academy must be on the battlefield and participate in the trial. Now, Long Ji was also with the Ocean Empress of the Four Seas. She went to find the mother of the abyssal race. As long as she was killed first, the number of abyssal race would not continue to increase. Killing one would mean one less abyssal race. Moreover, they would not have such a clear unity to attack. Basically, they would swim around randomly like a plate of loose sand. However, these abyssal race had a bigger appetite. If they were allowed to eat continuously, the creatures in the water would be reduced by more than half sooner or later. The diversity of the creatures would decrease directly. At the same time, Xiao Zhao received another piece of information. It said that Zhou Bachuan, who was moving around in the portal, had been discovered by the Devouring Yuan clan. Now, the Devouring Yuan clan was chasing after Zhou Bachuan and the others. The situation was critical. Damn it! Xiao Zhao knew that the Devouring Yuan clan was difficult to deal with. If one did not know how to cultivate one's body, one would basically be courting death in front of the Devouring Yuan clan. Fortunately, Zhou Bachuan himself was good at cultivating his body. Leading these ancient soldiers, they all followed the body refinement method. What's wrong, Xiao Zhao? Just as Xiao Zhao was at his wit's end, Li Zongjiu magically appeared in front of Xiao Zhao. Young master! Xiao Zhao was pleasantly surprised to see Li Zongjiu out of seclusion. It's about the Devouring Yuan clan. devouring Yuan clan? Or are they? Li Zongjiao asked. How could he not be excited when he heard the news about the devouring Yuan clan? He couldn't wait to kill all the members of the clan, to vent the hatred in his heart. Since he had said that he would exterminate the devouring Yuan clan, he had to do it. Otherwise, he would be going back on his word. That would not do. That was why Li Zongjiao had sent people to gather information about the devouring Yuan clan. We discovered that the people from the devouring Yuan clan are in the midst of a riot. Furthermore, that Songheng Mansion's mansion master of the Azure Ocean Institute is most likely a member of the devouring Yuan clan. Earlier, when Chen Zhudao of the Azure Ocean Institute wanted to attack the Sunset City, he was stopped by Songheng Mansion's mansion master. Xiao Zhao also sorted out the information she had gathered during this period of time and told them about it. Long Ji had gone to deal with the devouring Yuan clan. Qing Shilong was guarding Luoxia City. Furthermore, the master of the Azure Sea Academy seemed to be related to the devouring Yuan clan. In the portal, Zhou Bachuan was attacked by the devouring Yuan clan. He was currently on the run and his life was in danger. He could be in great danger at any time. Very well. In that case, I will make a trip to the portal, Li Zongjiao said. Since he had found the devouring Yuan clan's movement, he would go and deal with them directly. He would first deal with the devouring Yuan clan and then kill Chen Zhudao. Li Zongjiao did not care what the Azure Sea Academy was up to. If they dared to stop him or found out that they were related to the devouring Yuan clan, he would kill them all. Li Zongjiao immediately went to the portal. With the young master's help, Zhou Bachuan and the others would definitely be able to escape. However, the prerequisite was that Zhou Bachuan and the others could hold on until Li Zongjiao arrived. Chapter 1489. Boom! It was a chaotic place. The forest was dense with towering trees. Zhou Bachuan and his guards were besieged by the devouring Yuan clan. Fortunately, these people's strength was average, even though they could use their current elemental energy. Zhou Bachuan managed to break out of the encirclement with his own strength and heavy axe. However, Zhou Bachuan and his men soon lost their way in this chaotic place. A huge rock blocked the entrance of the cave. Just now, Zhou Bachuan had carried this huge rock over with his bare hands. We will wait here for reinforcements. Based on our previous battle with them, their fighting strength is not strong. Our elemental energy will disappear, and so will their elemental energy. As long as we are willing to fight, we will not be afraid of them. Zhou Bachuan said. Everyone had a weakness. Only by finding the weakness could one compete with the other party. After the previous battles, Zhou Bachuan and his men had found the other party's weakness. Also, we must not walk together. The three of you are armed with bows and crossbows. Move about 100 meters away from us. Their devouring Yuan clan's territory has a large area restriction. It is impossible for them to be invincible. Yes, General. They only needed to follow Zhou Bachuan's orders, even though it was dangerous to move around with bows and crossbows. However, in a team, someone had to be sacrificed. Zhou Bachuan used a rock to block the entrance of the cave they were in. He only left a small gap, which was only big enough for one person to break through. In this way, even if the other party chased after them, it would be difficult for them to break through. In addition, Zhou Bachuan also buried some gunpowder and set up a trap. If the other party came, these things did not need any elemental energy to cause damage. Naturally, it was very convenient. Then, Zhou Bachuan and his men waited in the dark cave for the enemy's arrival. It would be best if they could wait for reinforcements. They had special sensing stones on their bodies. Previously, when he had released the distress signal, he had sent it out. They also sent out the sensing stones. As long as the reinforcements brought the stone with them, they would be able to find them. Night fell. Zhou Bachuan was in a cave that wasn't very spacious, holding on to his battle axe. He suddenly opened his eyes. In the night sky, a loud and clear whistle was suddenly heard. It was as if it was calling out in the night sky. Zhou Bachuan immediately heard the whistle. Oh no, something happened to the three of them. In the end, the enemy came first. Although he didn't know what method the other party used to find him, They must have their own unique methods. The rest of the people also woke up one after another. There were 12 brothers left. Come on. A formless force instantly landed on the bodies of Zhou Bachuan and the others. It was this formless force that had sealed their yuan power. Here it comes. In the next moment, the boulder blocking the entrance of the cave was smashed to pieces by a fist. Just the gravel that flew out was enough to seriously injure them. Zhou Bachuan and the others didn't have time to raise their shields to block the attack. They didn't expect the other party to have such an expert who could shatter the boulder with a single punch. This was the first time they had seen such a powerful expert from the devouring Yuan clan. Boom! Zhou Bachuan and the others immediately retreated. Swoosh! A few rays of sword light hit the axe in Zhou Bachuan's hand and knocked it away from Zhou Bachuan's hand. You think you can cause trouble for the devouring Yuan clan? Since you've been found, it's time for you to die. 3 experts from the devouring Yuan clan stood outside the cave. 2 of them were holding the heads of the archers from before. A total of 3 heads had been chopped off by them. Charge out! Zhou Bachuan let out a low growl and charged forward. He threw a punch at the man with 3 eyes. However, the man's third eye shot out a ray of light. It shot towards Zhou Bachuan's arm. Although Zhou Bachuan didn't know what kind of attack it was, he knew that it must be very powerful. His body immediately flashed. The ray of light brushed past his shoulder armor. It hit the stone wall. It directly blasted a deep, thumb-sized hole in the stone wall in front of him. Even Zhou Bachuan's shoulder armor had a mark and smoke was coming out of it. If it had hit his arm or any other part of his body, he would have been killed. This group of people in front of him was even stronger. Zhou Bachuan thought to himself. He didn't expect the other party to have gathered a group of even stronger opponents. These people in front of him were extremely powerful. This made Zhou Bachuan exclaim in his heart. Swoosh! The man kept attacking Zhou Bachuan with the ray of light from his third eye. Zhou Bachuan's dodging wasn't very agile, but with his own experience, he dodged the first 2 attacks and rushed in front of the man on the third attack. Zhou Bachuan raised his fist and punched the man in front of him with all his might. Boom! Zhou Bachuan punched the man with 3 eyes. However, the man with 3 eyes only raised one hand and easily caught Zhou Bachuan's fist. His eyes were full of disdain. Do you really think that I'm not strong enough? I'm just teasing you. The man in front of him was extremely arrogant and had a playful smile on his face. Only now did Zhou Bachuan realize that his opponent's body tempering strength was also above his own. Obviously, these people also knew his shortcomings. Damn you! Zhou Bachuan lifted his leg and kicked the head of the person in front of him. However, the young man's leg technique was even more exquisite. He lifted his leg and instantly broke Zhou Bachuan's leg. Zhou Bachuan's leg was broken. However, he wasn't discouraged. He grabbed at his waist and immediately, a dagger covered with poison was slashed at the man's neck. Unexpectedly, the man exerted his strength and broke Zhou Bachuan's other arm. Instantly, he lost his balance and his attack collapsed. Then, Zhou Bachuan was sent flying with a kick. At this moment, the other 2 members of the devouring Yuan clan had also defeated the 12 warriors. The elders want us to concentrate on cultivating in the deep mountains and forests. I was bored to death. Fortunately, you guys are here for me to practice my skills. Next, I'm going to torture all of you properly. Just as the 3 of them were about to continue torturing Zhou Bachuan and the others, they heard a faint sound. Suddenly, Zhou Bachuan heard a slight movement. He lowered his head and saw that the soil on the ground seemed to be stirred up by something. He immediately took a closer look. It seemed like something was going to come out of the ground. What? Zhou Bachuan and the others also saw this shocking scene. However, the 3 young experts of the devouring Yuan clan who were about to attack immediately took a step back. They suddenly became vigilant against each other. Fireflies, go! Some poisonous insects appeared on the ground, and a group of extremely weak fireflies flew over from the sky. As these lights appeared, the 3 experts from the devouring Yuan clan immediately retreated. They did not hesitate to flee into the distance. Zhou Bachuan and the others were stunned. Where did these fireflies come from? How could they scare them away with just a few fireflies? Could it be that their weakness was these fireflies? Zhou Bachuan could not help but think. However, Zhou Bachuan and the others saw a blurry figure of a lady in front of them with the help of the moonlight. There were a few fireflies circling around the woman. The hazy light also caused the latter's identity to appear extremely mysterious. Leave quickly. This is not a place where you can come to. Zhang Biao looked at Zhou Bachuan and the others in front of her. She said indifferently. She might have saved them this time because she was in a good mood. However, she would not have such a good opportunity the next time. The fertile land was filled with a primitive aura. There were countless rugged rocks and strange shapes. There were also some alien clans who were disloyal. However, there was a branch of human cultivators in the inner palace, and it was here. The fertile land Gu clan. These people were good at refining and raising insects. They also cultivated the Gu arts. Because the land was fertile, it was very suitable for raising these little bugs. The climate was also very suitable, so these Gu clan people also lived here. Zhang Biao was the #1 genius of the fertile land. She had also taken over the position of the first elder of the Gu clan. Back then, there were some traders in the Gu clan who wanted to establish their own clan. However, Zhang Biao eliminated them one by one. They were the fertile land's poison cult. For outsiders, the Gu clan did not necessarily have to kill them. They only needed to persuade them to leave. Otherwise, just the poisonous insects and creatures here were not enough for them to survive. Sorry, we have a mission, Zhou Bachuan said in a deep voice. Thank you for your help, master. I, Zhou Bachuan, will remember this. Zhang Biao shook her head after hearing this. There are many problems in the fertile land now. Take care of yourselves. Then, Zhang Biao's figure gradually disappeared into the forest. This scene was almost like a dream to them. Zhou Bachuan and the rest did not react at all. Fortunately, they were saved. They treated each other's injuries. Zhou Bachuan was not curious about this mysterious woman. She was definitely not someone to be trifled with if the devouring Yuan clan was so afraid of her. They were already in a difficult situation. If they continued to provoke people who were not to be trifled with, wouldn't they end up in a worse state? Fortunately, Zhou Bachuan and the rest did not have to wait for too long. Li Zongjio had already arrived in the sky above the fertile land. A figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Zhou Bachuan and the rest. When Li Zongjio appeared, Zhou Bachuan and the rest were stunned. Young lord, you have worked hard. Li Zongjio directly injected a force into their bodies and healed their injuries. At the same time, he gave each of them a grade 8 elixir as a reward. Those who died naturally didn't get anything. They didn't even have a family, so they didn't need any money to settle down. After all, they were people from a few thousand years ago. Zhou Bachuan told them about Zhang Biao's help. Of course, Zhou Bachuan did not know that the other party was Zhang Biao. However, based on Zhou Bachuan's description, Li Zongjio guessed that the firefly was undoubtedly Zhang Biao. Fortunately, Zhang Biao was not in cahoots with the devouring Yuan clan. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would have had to kill her and clear all the obstacles. I got it. You guys go back first. I will handle the rest myself. Originally, they did not need to participate in the battle when carrying out this kind of mission. However, they had no choice but to be targeted by the other party. They could not retreat. If they retreated, they might lose some of the positions they had marked previously. Although Zhou Bachuan wanted to stay and help, their strength did not seem to be of much help. Young lord, please be careful, Zhou Bachuan said. Then he led the rest of the group out of the fertile land. Li Zongjio, on the other hand, was looking towards the depths of the forest. Then he stepped forward and disappeared. Chapter 1490. Yellow River Gu Tribe. In fact, in the entire Yellow River Gu Tribe, the Gu Tribe was very rare and precious because they were isolated from the rest of the world. There were a total of 10 tribes. Each tribe had its own chief, but there was only one elder. Usually, if there were some conflicts between tribes, it would all be resolved by the elder. The elder was the one who decided the highest management of the tribes. But if it wasn't involved in these issues, the elder would be in a state of idleness. They would visit everywhere to see if there were any small tribes that were left alone. Moreover, the elder had no right to interfere with the internal affairs of the tribe. As the great elder, Zhang Biao understood the reason behind it. As the great elder of the Yellow River Gu tribe, Zhang Biao's most important task was to protect the various large tribes in Yellow River Gu tribe. But recently, Zhang Biao found something unusual. When she visited, there were actually some tribes that were extremely mysterious. And the traces everywhere showed that someone was refining zombie worms. The so-called zombie bug was an extremely invasive bug. Once it was eaten, the ability of the zombie bug would be activated, and it would make your body invulnerable to swords and spears. But this ability was easy to get addicted. Once you fall in love with this feeling, you will need to maintain this state. This was a very terrifying thing. And the zombie worm's infection rate was extremely high. If you were bitten by the mother worm within a short 3 days, if you weren't detoxified in time, then you would really become a zombie. But Zhang Biao didn't have any evidence of this. Moreover, no one came to report this matter, so Zhang Biao couldn't investigate this matter. The only thing she could do now was to observe in secret. He had to settle this matter and find out the person who did this behind the scenes. Because once the zombie worm broke out, it would be very dangerous. It was like a plague, spreading at an extremely fast speed. Of course, Zhang Biao had brought this matter up to the Elder Council, but it was rejected one by one. Although Zhang Biao was now the great elder, it didn't mean that she could do whatever she wanted. She still had to follow the rules of the Elder Council. I can't listen to you just because you're strong. Otherwise, how would I know if you're just looking for an excuse to find trouble with other tribes? Where there were people, there would be underworld. Even in a paradise like this, there would still be underworld. Recently, Zhang Biao clearly felt that there were people who were ready to make trouble. They could no longer hold back and were preparing to do something that would endanger the tribe. Zhang Biao had to find these people before the enemy made a move. However, Zhang Biao was alone, and there were many things she couldn't do. The other party was also extremely careful. But tonight, Zhang Biao had some gains. The appearance of Zhou Bachuan and the rest also caused a change to occur in this quiet place. This change could be clearly felt. The other party was about to give himself away. Zhang Biao didn't kill the 3 people from the devouring Yuan clan. Instead, he quietly followed behind these people. Finally, she followed the 3 people from the devouring Yuan clan to an unfamiliar place. The valley was huge and the terrain varied. The previous tribes also had their own territories. Zhang Biao thought it was unfamiliar because this territory wasn't suitable for insects to live in. It seemed to have been occupied by another tribe. Zhang Biao landed on a treetop. The 3 people from the devouring Yuan clan who had just left walked into the valley and were still talking about what had just happened. That was close. Fortunately, we ran away quickly. That woman's strength isn't something we can fight against. If she knows that we planted zombie worms, the tribe will be exposed. What's the big deal? Didn't the elder give us a special medicine? As long as we take this special medicine, we can directly turn these zombie worms into ashes. Even if she wants to look for any evidence, she won't be able to find any evidence. Dead men tell no tales. She can't do anything. That's right. Although Zhang Biao is powerful, everything has to go through the elders. Therefore, as long as she doesn't cause any trouble, she won't be able to cause much trouble. The 3 of them said, "If we cooperate with these human tribes, will they really be able to help us take back our territory and enslave the humans for our entertainment? They are humans too. Will they turn around and kill us?" One of them said, "How is that possible? Do you really think that our elders are useless? Once all of us have absorbed the zombie worm's energy, we won't be invulnerable. What's there to be afraid of? With our strength, we can easily wipe out the entire human tribe." The person walking in the middle couldn't wait to show off his skills. "You didn't see it just now. That guy is at least a top-notch expert in body refining among the humans. However, he still couldn't withstand my attack. I only moved a little and his bones were all broken. Your zombie worms have already entered the second stage. Ours are still in the first stage. You're really talented. The two people beside him were also quite envious of the man in the middle, because his strength was breaking through very quickly. As long as you can find enough spiritual herbs for them to eat, they will be able to reach my current level very quickly. When my zombie worms reach the third stage, I will be able to kill primitive emperors easily. The man in the middle's eyes flashed with excitement. In order to find these zombie worms, it could be said that they had spent a lot of effort to negotiate with one of the tribes that raised venomous insects. Otherwise, they might not have been able to refine these things. They wouldn't have been able to experience such great power so quickly. It was very difficult for the people of the devouring Yuan clan to cultivate. If it was as easy as the humans, then the devouring Yuan clan would be considered invincible. You could use Yuan Qi, but you could seal off their Yuan Qi after decades of painstaking cultivation. Even a newborn child of the devouring Yuan clan had the ability to seal off Yuan Qi. Therefore, it was much more difficult for the people of the devouring Yuan clan to cultivate compared to the humans. Their ability to sense Yuan Qi was 100 times weaker than the humans. However, this didn't stop them from using other methods to improve their strength and combat strength. For example, using venomous insects. Planting zombie insects in his body would allow his strength to increase explosively. In this way, they would be invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. They might even be able to fight against some human experts. In addition to the power of the Heaven's Eye, their combat power had greatly increased. It was quite terrifying. Zhang Biao understood a lot when she heard the conversation between the three young men of the devouring Yuan clan. It turned out that everyone was cooperating with the devouring Yuan clan. Although it was forbidden to use venomous insects outside of the tribe and they could only raise and study these worms in their own tribe, the people of the devouring Yuan clan happened to stay in the tribe. They didn't use the zombie worms on themselves. Instead, they used the zombie worms on the people of the devouring Yuan clan. This wasn't considered too much of a violation of the rules. However, if the tribes in the tribe had no other intentions, there was no need for them to cooperate with the people of the devouring Yuan clan. Since they had helped them cultivate the zombie worms, it meant that they had other things to trade with them. Or perhaps, the people of the devouring Yuan clan had made some kind of promise to them. She just needed to know the details of the deal. Then, Zhang Biao would be able to dig them out and teach them a lesson. She would use the tribal law to punish them. Zhang Biao suddenly looked into the darkness ahead. It was the path that the three young men of the devouring Yuan clan had to pass through. Someone was there. The other party's movement was very subtle. Even now, Zhang Biao could only sense the other party's presence through the worms that she had released. This meant that the other party was very powerful. After all, the other party's aura should be like a bonfire in front of her at such a close distance. However, Zhang Biao didn't feel that way. Instead, she felt that it was rather vague. The information that she received from the worms that she had raised was also vague. It seemed like they weren't very sure either. However, Zhang Biao happened to be able to confirm that there was an expert approaching. This was because Zhang Biao knew the characteristics of the worms that she had raised the best. Zhang Biao was on guard because she wasn't sure if the other party had discovered her or how powerful he was. Furthermore, he wanted to see what exactly this guy was planning to do. Who's there? The three young men of the devouring Yuan clan stopped in their tracks. They could clearly see a figure in front of them, who seemed to be blocking their way. There was a connection between the devouring Yuan clan and the devouring Yuan clan. The other party was obviously not from the devouring Yuan clan. Since the other party had suddenly appeared on the path that they had to pass through, it was obvious that the other party had come prepared. The three of them immediately became vigilant. They didn't know where the other party came from, so they had to be careful. First, the three of them put up the devouring Yuan realm. Otherwise, for some experts, they could really kill you in 1/10 or even 1/100th of a second. It was a good habit to release the devouring Yuan realm in time when there was uncertainty. Only when one was sure that they were safe could they put it away. Some assassins from the human clan were quite perverted and terrifying. Some of them could even hide in a cesspool for 3 days and 3 nights before they launched a fatal attack. Almost all the clans had experience fighting against the human clan. Because of this, the ancestors recorded their experiences of fighting against the human race. Although they had gained great strength over the past few hundred years, they shouldn't underestimate the human race. This was because the human race's tenacity was beyond your imagination. Li Zongjio walked out of the darkness. When they saw that there was actually a human clan trying to sneak an attack on them, they were shocked. The 3 members of the devouring Yuan clan couldn't help but look at each other. I didn't expect that there would be someone here who would want to die. I wasn't having fun just now. That bitch ruined everything. Now, I want to see where you can run to and who will come to save you. The 3 members of the devouring Yuan clan were excited. It was all because that bitch had disturbed them previously. Now, they wanted to see who would come to Li Zongjio's rescue. After all, Li Zongjio had appeared in front of them. This place was also some distance away from the territory of the Wansha tribe. Li Zongjio didn't say anything. He just stood there and looked at the 3 people in front of him with a faint smile. Go. Immediately, the 2 people beside him also rushed out like arrows leaving the bowstring. Although their zombie insects were only at level 1, they were comparable to a Yuan monarch expert of the human clan. The 2 of them attacked Li Zongjio's head at the same time. Swoosh! Li Zongjio's figure actually disappeared without a trace with a whooshing sound. Their fists landed on empty air. Li Zongjio's figure disappeared like a ghost. What? The 2 of them were shocked. How did Li Zongjio do it? Even under his devouring element domain, he was still able to move so quickly. The 3 members of the devouring Yuan clan still didn't know what they were up against. To be honest, I'm happy to see you guys again. Li Zongjio finally spoke. At the same time, he squatted on the ground. Then he picked up a stone from the ground. Because I can torture you guys again. Chapter 1491. Li Zongjio casually picked up a stone from the ground. Previously, Li Zongjio was indeed too impulsive. He slaughtered a small tribe just like that. He didn't even torture them properly before killing them. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed too easy for them. If Li Zongjio was given another chance, he would definitely not choose to do so. This matter was indeed too terrifying. Fortunately, God had given Li Zongjio another chance. Li Zongjio naturally had to grasp it well. Acting all mysterious, you're crazy. The 2 of them looked at each other. Obviously, they thought that Li Zongjio was deliberately provoking them. They immediately roared and attacked Li Zongjio again. They didn't need to use too many moves. They could easily kill the other party with their fists. Bang! Facing the other party's fist, Li Zongjio raised the stone in his hand without hesitation. He threw it over. Bang! The stone that should have been shattered was unscathed at the moment. After easily blocking the other party's attack, Li Zongjio also threw the stone at the other party's face. 2 teeth flew out of his mouth. There was also blood. How dare you hit my face? Although the devouring Yuan clan was like a cave dweller, they were extremely concerned about their image. Suddenly, 2 of their teeth were knocked out by Li Zongjio's stone. The young man became angry with Li Zongjio on the spot. However, Li Zongjio continued to answer his words with actions. Bang! 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 Li Zongjio grabbed the man's collar and used the stone in his hand to continuously smash the man's mouth. After knocking out all the teeth in his mouth, he hit the man's nose bridge, directly smashing the man's nose bridge and causing it to collapse. Although these injuries weren't fatal, however, it was painful to look at. As for the person who was being beaten, needless to say, he was beaten quite miserably. The latter obviously didn't have the courage to endure until the end. He fainted on the spot. When Li Zongjio was beating the young man, the other people were also at the side. They watched as Li Zongjio knocked out all the young man's teeth. In the end, the young man fainted. When he saw Li Zongjio looking at him, the young man from the devouring Yuan clan was stunned. He had a bad premonition. It was as if he was being watched by someone. He couldn't escape. Just as the young man was about to escape, he suddenly heard a sound. Then, Li Zongjio appeared in front of him. In the same way, he grabbed the young man's collar. "Let me go, let me go." The young man kept struggling, trying to get rid of Li Zong's grip. However, Li Zongjio's hand was like an iron claw, holding him firmly. He didn't let the young man move. The young man saw Li Zongjio smile and saw Li Zongjio pick up the stone that was stained with his companion's blood. Then he slammed it down hard. Bang, bang, bang. Li Zongjio repeated the same trick. However, when he hit the last tooth, the stone in his hand broke. "You're really lucky." He threw the broken stone in his hand on the ground. The latter only had one last breath left. What invulnerability! The pain that should be felt was still the same. It wasn't any less. Since the stone was broken, it meant that Li Zongjio was about to give up. Who would have thought that Li Zongjio would grab him with one hand and continue to pick up another stone? "You're really lucky to be able to enjoy a new stone," Li Zongjio said immediately. Who knew what kind of demon Li Zongjio was? He actually used such a method. "You might as well not say anything. You said so much and said that I'm lucky. How can you call this lucky?" Bang! A stone smashed down. Not only was the young man's last tooth knocked out, but his nose and eye socket were also directly hit. This was because the new stone Li Zongjio found was bigger. It was even bigger than half of the young man's face. Phew! Although Li Zongjio didn't have any special fetishes. But after doing so, there was always a kind of happy, comfortable and carefree feeling in his heart. How could Li Zongjio describe this feeling? It was the feeling of flowing down 1,000 miles. It was indescribable. "You're the only one left. Come here." Li Zongjio looked at the remaining young man. He crossed his arms in front of him and seemed to be very confident. He had already demonstrated it so clearly just now. The young man only needed to be caught by him. If he didn't catch him, he would fall directly to the ground. Therefore, Li Zongjio also thought that if he had the awareness, he would have taken the initiative to come to the mountain gate and let Li Zongjio torture him. He wasn't someone who would never give up. "Hee, do you know why I didn't save them?" The confident man sneered. Li Zongjio also saw that there seemed to be something crawling out of the two unconscious men and directly to the feet of the confident man. Then, the confident man directly grabbed two black little bugs, threw them into his mouth, and swallowed them directly. Li Zongjio had never seen such a ferocious person. "You're a little arrogant. You're a little fierce. You actually ate bugs." Although Li Zongjio had seen many fierce people, what was the meaning of eating bugs like this? Were you trying to disgust him? Zhang Biao, who was far away, instantly locked her gaze on the two bugs. Zombie bugs. Zombie bugs could increase their grade by devouring zombie bugs. When the confident man's level 2 zombie bug ate 2 more level 1 zombie bugs, he also noticed a big change. Although the combat power didn't directly increase by a lot, it was much stronger than before. There was a faint trend of breaking through to level 3. "Come on, let me see how many tricks you have." The confident man shouted directly. Then he leaped up and actually rose 70 to 80 feet into the air. When he landed, he carried with him the power to break through thunder. When Li Zongjio saw him jump up, he stood on the spot and watched him show off. Suddenly, he lightly tapped his feet and his body instantly rose into the air. He directly grabbed the man. That man didn't even feel that he had landed. Why was he suddenly grabbed by Li Zongjio? What's going on? He wanted to break Li Zongjio's arm with both hands. But in the next second, Li Zongjio's stone had already greeted him. Bang! With just a light slap, the man's teeth were directly broken. However, the stone in Li Zongjio's hand was also broken by the man. "Oh!" Li Zongjio stretched out his hand and the stone in the distance flew over and landed in his hand. Then he immediately continued to smash the man's face. At first, the man still knew how to struggle and kept attacking Li Zongjio. This was because Li Zongjio only grabbed his collar and didn't choke him. He could still move his hands and feet. However, Li Zongjio didn't know how he did it. He easily dodged all the man's attacks. Bang! While dodging, Li Zongjio also directly hit the man's face with the brick in his hand. After 3 hits, he had to change a stone. But in such a big forest, there was an endless supply of stones. A minute later, this man who was full of confidence no longer had any expression on his face. His nose, eyes, and mouth were all deformed. Originally, he should have fainted as well. However, because he had just absorbed the power of the 2 zombie worms, his willpower was slightly stronger than the previous 2. In other words, during the process of being tortured and beaten by Li Zongjio just now, he had maintained a state of absolute consciousness. When the last stone fell, the man still didn't faint. "You're quite tough." Li Zongjio saw that this guy was so resilient. Then he picked up another stone and smashed all the bones in the man's chest one by one. This time, the man truly felt what it meant to be in a state worse than death. "Don't hit me." The man finally used all of his strength to beg for mercy. He finally begged for mercy. "This guy, I thought you wanted to go to heaven." "Oh my, you can't take it anymore." After the man shouted this sentence, he directly fainted. Obviously, he couldn't take it anymore. How could this be something that a human could withstand? It was simply asking for his life. It would be better to just stab them to death with a single stab, and that would be more satisfying. What kind of deep hatred did they have to use such methods? Zhang Biao had been watching the entire process. Although she didn't approve of such behavior, she didn't sympathize with these people. How should she put it? These goo refiners like these worms and poisonous things more. Their feelings for humans were actually weaker. If Zhang Biao saw Li Zongjio beating her worms, she would definitely not be able to resist rushing out to fight Li Zongjio. These were 2 different things. Everyone had their own pursuits. She didn't object to Li Zongjio's behavior. After all, it didn't harm her, nor did it harm her tribe. However, Zhang Biao was sure that Li Zongjio had already found out that she was here. When Li Zongjio stopped what he was doing, he looked at her. "Long time no see." Li Zongjio was holding a hairpin in his hand. This was something that Li Zongjio had just thought of. The material of the hairpin was 10,000-year-old ebony. When he was refining the soaring elixir, he saw this thing and wondered where it came from. It wasn't until he saw Zhang Biao that he remembered. "My hairpin? You are Li Zongjio?" Zhang Biao jumped and landed in front of Li Zongjio. It was indeed 2 years ago, when they fought against Heavenly Demon He and Bai Shiyan in front of the Middle Range Mountains. They fought side by side. At that time, Heavenly Demon He, as a traitor, escaped from Tibet and wanted to cultivate a real king of poisonous insects outside. He also founded the Tibetan poison sect. Zhang Biao was ordered to kill him, but the other party's strength was stronger than Zhang Biao's. If it wasn't for Li Zongjio's help, she would have died in the hands of Heavenly Demon He. Because Li Zongjio killed Heavenly Demon He, Zhang Biao gave her hairpin to Li Zongjio before she left. She also promised that if Li Zongjio or anyone else came to her with the hairpin, she would die 1,000 times without hesitation. Zhang Biao was also meritorious because she killed Heavenly Demon He. That was why she was accepted into the Council of Elders. Until now, because she passed the tribe's trial, she was also promoted to the Great Elder. Before this, she didn't see clearly. In addition, Li Zongjio's aura had changed a lot, and he was completely different from before. Therefore, Zhang Biao didn't recognize Li Zongjio at first. When they met a few years ago, Li Zongjio's strength was already above Zhang Biao's. Now, Zhang Biao saw that Li Zongjio dared to travel alone in Tibet. He must have had a breakthrough. Chapter 1492. As a result, the surrounding people let down their guard around Zhao Kaishan and Baiyu. However, there were still people who took notice of Baiyu. Today, not only was Baiyu wearing an exquisite long white dress, she also had a light layer of makeup on her face and her entire body was emitting the fragrance of gardenias. Although Zhao Kaishan could smell it, he did not take it to heart. Some animals naturally had their own smell, such as weasels. Even if they did not exhale, they would still have a smell. "Miss, are you hurt? How could a boorish man like you treat such an elegant lady so rudely? Hurry up and remove your hand." A handsome man in his 20s, who was dressed in a gorgeous light blue robe, walked in with an elegant demeanor. At the same time, he used the jade fan in his hand to gently lift Zhao Kaishan's hand and placed it to the side. It was obvious that he despised Zhao Kaishan. "Is this your friend?" Zhao Kaishan asked as he looked at Bai Yu. Bai Yu naturally knew that greedy and lecherous young masters like him were everywhere. As soon as they saw a fresh face, they would not be able to restrain themselves. Bai Yu originally thought that she would not be too attractive in North Snow City. But who would have thought? Her damned charm could not be concealed. "Sir, my younger brother has a problem here. Thank you for your concern." Bai Yu suddenly had an idea as she gestured for Zhao Kaishan not to act rashly. Although they did not know each other, they could not hit each other. Immediately, Bai Yu gestured to the person that had arrived. Zhao Kaishan did not understand why Bai Yu said he had a problem. He then pointed to his temple. Could it be that her head was not feeling well? "I see. But miss, you still need to be careful. How about this? I happen to know the most famous doctor in the city. Why don't I introduce you to him?" The blue-clothed man immediately cast a pitiful gaze at Zhao Kaishan. What a good physique. Unfortunately, he was an idiot. Of course, he could not directly call the younger brother an idiot in front of the older sister. So, the blue-clothed man kept a low profile. Bai Yu was aware that it wasn't realistic for her to pretend to be a couple with Zhao Kaishan. So, it was better for her to act as an idiotic younger brother. After all, Zhao Kaishan had a tendency to act strangely most of the time. "There's no need. My younger brother's condition is a chronic illness. This time, I've only come with the intention of bringing him around the city. I have no other intentions," Bai Yu said as she pulled Zhao Kaishan and turned to leave. "Don't be like that, girl. The master I know is on the top floor of the Golden Tower. The Golden Tower itself is the tallest building in the northern Snow City. Didn't you say that you want to take your brother to broaden his horizons? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." The blue-clothed young master quickly rushed in front of the two people and blocked their way. "Miss, you don't have to worry. I am a disciple of the North Snow City's Lan clan. I don't have any ill intentions towards you. I just like to make friends." This Lan family disciple was quite pretentious. Just by looking at him, one would think that he was actually a good person. However, Bai Yu had already done her research. The Lan clan was one of the 4 great clans of the northern Snow City. The Lan clan disciple had purposely mentioned his clan. Clearly, he wanted to show off a little at a time like this, and at the same time, intimidate the other party. At the very least, if a girl from an ordinary family heard that this young master was from the Lan clan, one of the 4 great clans, she would definitely throw herself at him. If she was fancied by a disciple of one of the 4 great clans, she wouldn't have to suffer for the rest of her life. All she needed to do was to properly enjoy the glory and wealth that belonged to her. The reason why the Misty Feather Crane had inadvertently mentioned his clan was because he wanted to see how the girl in front of him would react. If Bai Yu immediately became wild with joy and wanted to throw herself at him, the Misty Feather Crane would be greatly disappointed. After all, there were plenty of girls like this in the city. As soon as they heard the name of the Lan clan, they would immediately jump into his bed. However, Bai Yu's reaction was also a little surprised. However, it seemed that she was just giving a polite smile. She looked at the Golden Tower, seemingly a little hesitant. Seeing this expression, the Misty Feather Crane was slightly delighted. Indeed, this young lady wasn't the type to bow her head because of power. Instead, she was someone who was willing to lower herself for the sake of her family and for the sake of her foolish younger brother. If she was such a person, then the Misty Feather Crane would admire her very much. Furthermore, this type of person was cold on the outside, but weak on the inside. They were the easiest to conquer and could easily give others a sense of conquest. Therefore, the Misty Feather Crane was the best at doing things like this. The number 1 doctor in the city is a guest at the Golden Tower. This little brother's head definitely won't be a problem. If we miss this rare opportunity, who knows when we'll have to wait for the next one. Speaking of this, he also deliberately revealed a trace of threat and vigilance. Obviously, if he missed this opportunity directly this time, he might not be able to do so the next time. Immediately, Bai Yu displayed her acting skills to the fullest. Then I'll have to trouble you to lead the way. If you can cure my foolish younger brother, I'm willing to pay any price. Bai Yu gritted her teeth, not daring to look into the misty feather crane's eyes. As for Zhao Kaishan, he was simply watching their strange performance. Who's the foolish younger brother? However, Zhao Kaishan didn't say much. He simply followed behind Bai Yu and learned from her. After all, Bai Yu was more experienced in dealing with people. Zhao Kaishan found it difficult to learn some of the more advanced methods. He would have to slowly experience them. Let's talk about money later. The treatment is more important. Follow me. The misty feather crane smiled, seemingly putting the matter of money aside. However, he didn't ignore it. If he really brought it up, he might immediately fall out with him. Under the misty feather crane's lead, Bai Yu and Zhao Kaishan walked straight into the legendary Jin Man building without any resistance. The guards at the entrance obviously recognized the misty feather crane and immediately welcomed him in. However, the guards that the misty feather crane brought along were also left outside to guard the entrance. Obviously, they didn't have the right to enter. In the distance, Sima Feng had been observing Zhao Kaishan and Bai Yu from the crowd. When he saw the misty feather crane take the initiative to bring the two of them into Golden Tower, he was shocked. What's going on? Did Protector Zhao defect to the enemy? This was the first thought that flashed through Sima Feng's mind. However, he quickly shook his head because Zhao Kaishan was still muttering about burying explosives. Elder Bai is still the capable one. Sima Feng thought about it carefully. The other party must have taken a liking to Elder Bai's beauty and took the initiative to invite her in. If that was the case, the difficulty of the mission would be reduced by a lot. Have you heard? Recently, a batch of extremely fresh goods arrived at the Drunken Fragrance Tower. Those few who just came, they're going to charm me to death with just one look. Sigh, don't even think about it. One of my hired thugs at the Drunken Fragrance Tower told me that these new arrivals were all prepared for young Master Xian. Therefore, they're all first-class goods. No matter how much money we spend, we can forget about it. Sima Feng's ears twitched. Then he quietly sat down in the tea house where they were talking about this topic. In this line of work, one had to be observant and alert. Only then would one be able to do a good job. Chapter 1493. Jin Man Building. Naturally, there was nothing to say about the interior decoration of the building. The entire building also presented an extremely noble color. If a person without any ability walked into a building like this, they would probably feel inferior for a few days. Although Bai Yu had seen the world, she couldn't help but be surprised when she saw the decorations. At the same time, she didn't hide it at all on her face. There was also a look of envy in her big, innocent eyes. Envy was the right thing to do. The misty feather crane was also secretly delighted. This was exactly what it needed. This proved that Bai Yu's family was only in the middle class. Compared to the big four families, they couldn't compare. At the same time, it was normal for a normal girl to reveal a look of envy and surprise when they saw such an environment. If Bai Yu deliberately pretended not to see it, it would seem a little pretentious. So, the misty feather crane was quite satisfied with Bai Yu's performance. Miss Bai, let me show you around. What about my brother? Bai Yu hesitated for a moment. Don't worry, take this brother to Master Wan Shoujiang's room and ask him to take a look at his brain. I'll be there in a moment. A middle-aged man called Age was standing at the top of the stairs. When he heard the misty feather crane's words, he nodded his head expressionlessly. Follow him and take a look. Bai Yu gestured for Zhao Kaishan to follow. At the same time, she wanted to find an opportunity to check out the situation. It would be best if she could find the core of the enemy. The most important thing was Zhao Chuanxian. In Bai Yu's eyes, a mere misty feather crane was nothing more than an idiot. Zhao Kaishan obediently followed Age to the right passageway. As for the misty feather crane, it led Bai Yu to the left as it spiraled up the stairs. Against the misty feather crane, Bai Yu naturally had the ability to protect herself. She also had her own confidence. A mere misty feather crane was naturally unable to do anything to Bai Yu. Furthermore, the guards had already left. If she took the initiative to take down the misty feather crane at a critical moment, it would be simple. Moreover, without Zhao Kaishan by her side, there was less chance of her being exposed. After all, Bai Yu wasn't worried about anything else. She was only worried that Zhao Kaishan would suddenly ask when they were going to look for Zhao Chuanxian. Then everything would be over. Gongzilan, what do you usually do? Bai Yu immediately revealed a cat-and-mouse smile as she began to set a trap for the Misty Crane. On the other side, Zhao Kaishan was brought to the 5th floor. It was also the pharmacy of the number 1 doctor in the city, Master Wan Shoujiang. Originally, the Wanshou border had its own clinic, but this time, in order to help the future sect master of the Xuesha sect adjust the effects of the blood pool, it was temporarily moved here. Only a few elders of Blood Fiend sect needed to maintain the energy of the blood pool and prevent the power of the blood pool from dissipating for no reason. The remaining replenishment of the power of the blood pool would depend on Master Wan Shoujiang. Only the prescription in his hands could maximize the effects of the blood pool. When Wan Shoujiang was in his own pharmacy and preparing the medicine for Zhao Chuanxian, there was a knock on the door. "Come in." Wan Shoujiang's tone was a little unfriendly. What he hated the most was being disturbed during the concoction process. If there was even the slightest deviation in the dosage during the concoction process, it would lead to a disaster. "Master Wan, Gongzilan wants you to take a look at this little brother's head." Ague came in front of Wan Shoujiang and said respectfully, "Misty Crane? That guy dares to order me around? I won't look." When Wan Shoujiang heard that it was the Misty Crane, he immediately waved his hand and motioned for Ague to take him away. "I still have to prepare the medicine for Gongzi Zhao. If it's delayed, a mere Misty Crane won't be able to compensate." Ague nodded quickly after hearing that. If it really delayed Gongzi Zhao's matter, the consequences would be very serious. Ague was the chief steward of Jin Man Pavilion. He had suffered a lot these days. Although in his line of work, it was normal for him to have to deal with people's expressions all day long. It was all this damn kid's fault. He had caused him to be scolded again. Ague left with Zhao Kaishan. Just as he was about to close the door, he saw a black shadow land on his shoulder with a thud. Then, Ague immediately felt his vision darken. "What's going on? My neck seems to be broken." This was Jin Manlu Ague's last thought. Zhao Kaishan grabbed the corpse that was about to fall to the ground. "Oh no, I hit too hard." Zhao Kaishan only wanted to knock him out. Who knew that the poor Ague would not be able to block his attack? Then, Zhao Kaishan threw Ague's corpse into his storage ring. He activated the divine concealment technique. Then, he quietly disappeared into the darkness. The lighting in the pharmacy was not very good to begin with. Wan Shoujiang heard some movement outside and frowned as he looked outside. However, the movement disappeared quickly. Hence, Wan Shoujiang calmed down and continued to move the bottle in his hand. In another hour, it would be time to change the dressing. How could he be disturbed at this time? What a bunch of ignorant children. What kind of brains did they have? They actually brought a fool to see him at this time. Who exactly was the fool? He reckoned that he would have to find out. Strange, where is my blood flower spray? Wan Shoujiang had a pot of medicinal liquid in front of him, but he could not find a medicinal ingredient at the moment. He turned around and searched for it in the cabinet at the side. In Wan Shoujiang's pharmacy, no medicine boy or apprentice was allowed to enter. He was afraid that some idiots would mess up his things or even destroy the things he had concocted to prevent these people from poisoning him. However, just as Wan Shoujiang turned around to leave, suddenly, a hand reached out from the roof and threw a black pill into the pot below. This pill was refined by Zhao Kaishan using countless poisonous insects last time. Zhao Kaishan called it the myriad poison pill. It would not kill people. At least, Zhao Kaishan himself would not die from eating it. At most, his body would feel a little uncomfortable, but only for a while. Just now, Zhao Kaishan also realized that this thing seemed to be sent to Zhao Chuanxian. Zhao Kaishan did not feel much about the fact that Zhao Chuanxian was also surnamed Zhao. He did not have any prejudice. Hence, he directly threw a whole myriad poison pill. Found it. Wan Shoujiang rummaged through the drawers and drawers to find the so-called blood flower spray. Then he hurriedly returned to his own pot and merged the blood flower spray into it. During the process, he did not notice anything wrong. After boiling for more than 10 minutes, Wan Shoujiang poured the remaining medicinal liquid into a pot. After a while, a specialized person would come to pick it up. After all, this thing was of great importance. Chapter 1494. A short while later, a gray-clothed old man with a skinny face and a strong body slowly walked over. "Thank you for your hard work, Master Wan." The newcomer cupped his hands at Wan Shoujiang. Now was the time to use people. Wan Shoujiang had enough experience to help Shueisha sect, so he naturally had to be polite. Elder Tong is too polite. "This is the latest medicinal liquid." Wan Shoujiang handed over the bottle in his hand. Elder Tong took the bottle, opened it, and smelled it. He found that the smell was a little different from before. Elder Wan, why is this smell a little different? It's different from before." Yes. Elder Tong knew a little about the basics of refining medicine, so he was sent here to get the medicine. This thing was to be given to Zhao Chuanxian for cultivation. Therefore, he had to ensure a high degree of safety. He couldn't be careless at all. After all, Wan Shoujiang was from outside. Although his refining skills were here, he still had to be careful. When doing big things, he naturally couldn't be careless. The slightest abnormality would be immediately discovered. Wan Shoujiang's expression froze, then he revealed a proud smile as if to say, "You found out." As expected of Elder Tong. Elder Tong's spider technique lives up to its name. You even found out about such a small change. Young Master Zhao has used the medicinal liquid continuously for 7 days. If he continues to use it, then the absorption effect will be very normal. Therefore, the prescription needs to be upgraded. This is the upgraded version of the medicinal liquid, and the effect will be increased by 10%. I see. Master Wan is too considerate. I worry too much. Elder Tong naturally understood the principle behind it. Therefore, when Wan Shoujiang mentioned it, he already understood. Then, Elder Tong put away the bottle and turned to leave. Suddenly he stopped. His gaze was extremely sharp as he looked at a corner of the room. Wan Shoujiang was also startled by Elder Tong's gaze. The latter seemed to be staring at something. Could it be that there was someone else in this room? Was there something strange? "Elder Wan, you've worked hard. You haven't touched the food sent in at noon. Later, I'll ask the chef of Golden Full Tower to cook a new portion for you." Elder Tong smiled faintly. The tense atmosphere vanished without a trace at this moment. Wan Shoujiang thought it was a big deal, but he suddenly had such a serious expression. It's fine. I'll send Elder Tong off." Wan Shoujiang and Elder Tong immediately walked out of the room. When the footsteps of the two people disappeared, Zhao Kaishan also happened to walk out from the corner that Elder Tong was staring at. I was shocked. I thought that guy's nose was so sharp. At one point, Zhao Kaishan thought that his divine concealment technique had malfunctioned and was almost not discovered by him. Therefore, Zhao Kaishan couldn't help but feel nervous. Fortunately, the latter did not seem to notice. After all, this divine concealment art came from Blood Fiend Sect's Heaven Fiend, the ultimate skill of the divine concealment White Fox. Zhao Kaishan originally wanted to leave directly. But when he turned around and looked inside the house, there were so many bottles and jars. There were also many dried herbs and other things around. His eyes lit up. Hee, this is a good place. Immediately, Zhao Kaishan took out the black gunpowder that he had stored for a long time. This black gunpowder was specially made. If there was a special mysterious fire fluctuation within a 10-meter radius, it would immediately ignite and cause a violent explosion. Just this palm-sized piece of gunpowder was enough to blow up a dozen ordinary people wearing armor into a pile of junk. Zhao Kaishan hurriedly hid the gunpowder he had prepared in the medicine room. Almost every corner was filled with gunpowder. When he walked out, he didn't meet anyone. Just as he was about to walk around, the crane and the crane. Bai Yu and the Misty Feather Crane also walked out together. When Bai Yu saw Zhao Kaishan, she quickly walked over. Are you all right? Of course I'm fine. Zhao Kaishan waved his hand. What could happen to him? Since you're fine, we thank young Master Lon for your hospitality. It's getting late, we'll take our leave first. Miss Bai, aren't you going to stay for dinner? Bai Yu also declined the latter's invitation. The Misty Feather Crane clearly wanted to play around. So, he didn't make a move today and directly took Bai Yu down. In his opinion, that was a reckless action. It was the action of a bandit. There was no elegance at all. However, the Misty Feather Crane was different. He was the son of a famous family in the city. Naturally, he had to have the appropriate elegance. Only then could he match his status. Bai Yu thanked the Misty Feather Crane and led Zhao Kaishan downstairs. However, the Misty Feather Crane seemed to have thought of something and quickly took out an invitation card. Miss Bai, in 3 days, there will be an elegant garden appreciation party in the city plaza. You must come. I'll wait for you. Little brother Bai, come with me. I'll give you 2 invitations. The Misty Feather Crane suddenly ran in front of her and handed over 2 invitations. Just the craftsmanship of the invitations gave off a faint fragrance. They must have been made by a woman of great quality. There was also an exquisite embroidery on the invitations. The skill of the embroidery was obvious. Just a single invitation card like this was enough to be an expensive item. Obviously, this garden appreciation party was bound to be a gathering of the city's rich and powerful. Bai Yu wondered if Zhao Chuanxian would attend. If he did, then she might have a chance to make a move. What party? Will there be good food? Zhao Kaishan asked coldly. Yes, of course there will be. The Misty Feather Crane clearly didn't expect Zhao Kaishan to ask such a question. However, he guessed that Zhao Kaishan must have been chased out by Master Wan. So, it was normal for his brain to be a little abnormal. He expressed his understanding. Okay, I'll definitely come. I'll definitely come. Zhao Kaishan said repeatedly. Bai Yu nodded at the Misty Feather Crane to express her gratitude. Then, she quickly left with Zhao Kaishan. The Misty Feather Crane watched Bai Yu's departing figure. He imagined what kind of enjoyment he would have if he could get Bai Yu. Just thinking about it made him a little excited. You can't escape from the palm of my hand. A trace of evil flashed through the Misty Feather Crane's eyes. Strange, where the hell did Ague go? After a while, the Misty Feather Crane discovered the missing Age. However, Age also had legs and wasn't a retainer of the Lon family. He didn't need the Misty Feather Crane's permission to go anywhere. So, he must have been sent away by Master Wan. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.